Okay, hi you guys. We're back for another episode of Flat Earth Conspiracy, and we have a couple of guests with us this evening. We got the old standbys, me and Lawrence, and we also have Thompson and Kevin Rohlin joining us. And Mike Helmick is supposed to join us also, but he's not here yet, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start off this thing by asking you guys to introduce yourselves so that our million podcast listeners can start to recognize your voices quickly. And since they won't be watching on screen and know who's talking. So I'm going to start with Thomas. Thomas, I'd love for you to first of all, I need to say hello to my co-host. Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
Good evening.
He's always got the laugh after he gets started. So glad to always hear that, Lawrence. Yep. Thomas, tell us about how you got involved in Flat Earth to begin with, briefly, and where your focus is right now, so that everybody can kind of get a handle on who you are that doesn't know you. I think you're already infamous, but maybe a few people out there do not know the infamous Thomas Thompson.
No, not yet. I basically came into the whole Flat Earth movement. I was going through the conspiracies. I come from a very occult, religious type background. And I was basically out to being egotistical to prove my superior intelligence over these so-called flat earthers. And I'm like, why would somebody possibly believe that the earth is flat? I mean, that's just insane. So I'm like, what could possibly be going through your head? What is wrong with you? So I sat down and I started watching some of these videos. And next thing you know, I was just being really, really quiet, and I spent days and then weeks just poring over more and more information, not being able to truly debunk anything. And the first thing I discovered, of course, when I was introduced to this whole flat thing, is I was handed a package. It was a package deal. They weren't just telling me the earth was flat. They were also bringing in other new information, like here's what the map looks like, here's what the sky looks like, this is how the luminaries work and all that. So I got caught up in that, and I immediately accepted everything. Then about 6 months later, I came across some problems with the system, and well, that brought me to the square model where I'm currently at today, 3 years later. So right now I run the Flat Earth News, which is a Facebook group. We concentrate on gathering the latest news, latest scientific updates, and posting them online for people to see and do their own private research. We are a closed group because we trolling and stuff like that. And well, that's basically where I come from.
Okay, cool. And so, Kevin, introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved in Flat Earth quickly and what you're working on currently.
Yeah, I got involved in Flat Earth just pretty much the same way Thomas just said. Have a very conspiratorial mind, I guess you could say. Felt uneasy all my life and never really could find my way. I was very much a lost soul. And of course I stumbled into every, nook and cranny of life I could find, looking for something, and I never knew what it really was. And I guess I just kind of fell into my lap one day, Flat Earth, watched a couple videos, and it made more sense than anything else. And I even fought with it for a long time. I thought with myself, this amount of deceit couldn't be real. I mean, somebody couldn't do this, right? So I fought with myself for a long time. And like I said, I've watched hours and hours and hours of you, Lori and Lawrence, of you guys just dissecting stuff from other people's work, and then pulling the good stuff out, keeping the good stuff, and working it with your own model. And it's just, it inspired me to do the same with my passions and my interests. My interests were just along the lines of energy. And still, I went off on my path with energy, and it still brought me right back to flat Earth. Imagine that, you know. So what I'm working on right now is literally, you know, where I truly believe in the word of, you know, the Bible, and I take a lot of it literally. And if you read the very beginning of it, it describes a flat Earth. You know, if you don't get a globe in your mind, it describes a flat Earth. So I have a religious background. Now, I was brought up Catholic, you know, and that is in itself, you know, has definitely its absolute faults. But it showed me a path to Christianity, which essentially is where I'm at now. Now, because of that, and because of my interest in energy, and now, of course, flat Earth, because, you know, we need to know where we're living, for one. Now, you know, I just kind of let my heart guide me, and it's guided me along a path that I mean, I can't even explain in the time that we have to explain. You know, I would need a classroom and 8-9 hours to really get into it. But that's a little bit of my story, and I'll pass the baton.
Okay, cool. Well, and that's one of the very interesting things about flat Earth awakening, as many people call it, is it's a journey of discovery, but it's also a very personal journey. And everybody comes at it from a different perspective and a different trigger, whether, you know, they set out to debunk it, or whether they saw something and it clicked in their head. Wow, that kind of wows me a little bit. And so I need to start looking into this further. So what I'd like to do is, because we're sort of known notoriously as AE map debunkers on this channel, and Lawrence and I have spent the last pretty much close to 2 years systematically taking apart every part and parcel of the dogma that is associated with what most people in the flat Earth community believe. Fortunately, unfortunately, we went through a lot of mockery, harassment, you know, belittling attacks from larger channels who were, you know, called us stupid and idiots and silly, and started attacking even our map that we would propose, or our verbiage that we would use, especially words like Pac-Man, which was simply used as an analogy to describe, make something visual that you had no words really to describe this phenomenon that we believe the sun, moon, and stars are going through. And that has come full circle, fortunately, and that is that now there's becoming a stronger movement within the movement of people who are discovering the faults with that proposed model, that several 100-year-old model, and they're going on their own path of discovery to debunk it. And they're also going back over our videos now that they were shunned from earlier, and they're listening to what Lawrence and I discovered. Both, you know, little things like, you know, false maps and forgeries, all the way to the sun can't possibly be doing that, to what ice wall, where's the dome, all of those individual parts and pieces that make up the Circle AE/Gleason map. So now that we're not quite so shunned, and we're not quite so alone and isolated in our query, in our quandary, and we have been joined by some other, what I like to consider great minds who think alike, who have discovered the same things. People like Thomas, people like Darren Nesbitt. There's just Mike Helmick. There's more and more every day. Mike is supposed to join us, so please stay tuned for that. Unless something has happened and he's unable to, I haven't gotten a message from him. So there's that. And so what I would like next, just to sort of do an icebreaker, is I would like each of you to discuss from your own perspective, and I will also, why within the Flat Earth movement you have Christians, biblical Christians and scholarly biblical people who reject the circle map and model, and have determined by going back and looking at the information and the scriptures and the actual breaking down of words again, now they're like, oh, now I kind of understand why I thought it was a circle, because that's what I was presented with to begin with when I walked in the door, this little package deal, as Thomas put it so eloquently, of the circle map and model. And so it is what I call normalcy bias. It's not cognitive dissonance, it's normalcy bias. Normalcy bias means if you want to see something, you will find evidence to make that look more logical. And so as we go through each of you, I'm going to jump in here and say welcome to Mike Helmick. Thanks for jumping in. I was worried about you. I thought something happened. So I'm glad you're here.
No, had to run out of town.
Okay, so. Well, good. Thank you for giving us your time so much. So my question is, now that we have, and I don't call it a division, but I call it camps. There's camps of Christians who are still circle earth believers, and there's camps of Christians who are square earth believers, and 4D models and other ways to explain it. Not everybody's going to agree it's a square, but some version, some four-cornered object. And so I want you guys to just go over that as to why you think and how you think we're going to be able to bring everybody together, not with us and to agree with us, because that's not the point, but to find the same path to the same on the same journey. And but so who I'm going to start with is Mike, so he can introduce himself so people can recognize his voice on the podcast later also.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mike, as Lori mentioned. And I'm going to get this camera thing, video thing figured. I don't do Google Hangouts, so usually I talk on Skype. As what Lori said, we're not going to get everybody on board. I was listening to Globebusters the other day. Jaron actually wants me on to discuss the azimuthal equidistance projection. He still believes in the a projection type map. Now, he did make a comment that he noticed that the sun possibly was dimensional in space, not in our spatial space, but in a separate space than what we are. And that's what I've been studying the last few weeks, checking out the clouds in the sun, checking out the angular shadows that the sun leaves above Earth, like in weather balloons and from planes. And I think what Lori said, our sun cannot be triangulated, can't be measured. It appears different to the observer. Now, Dr. Zach's team, and I have his phone number, they try to follow the sun through different places on Earth. And they have amazing equipment, and what they found was that all the readings were different per person, per observer, and none of the math made sense. And so I think if we are looking at some type of map, we're probably looking at something that could better be explained by quantum mechanics or spatial space. And if we come to an agreement on that, then I think we can make some headway.
Okay. What do you say to those out there who do the same thing to us that Globers do to us, those of us who are no longer in the camp of the AE, the mocking, the ridicule, things like you mentioned, Jaron. Jaron said, I'll go back to the ball before I believe in a square earth morphing sun. I had to listen to that a couple of times before I was like, did you actually say you'll go back to the ball before you'll look at some other evidence of a different layout or working model of the earth? Because what has that got to do with it's flat? I mean, doesn't flats override everything?
Well, Jaron's point is he can't figure out the polar magnetics of either the North or South Pole. He's looking at it as a physical construct that's connected to our space. In actuality, I was talking to Free Energy last week. He believes that there are two magnetic focuses on each pole that shift 47 kilometers every year, and that's why scientists are claiming that our poles are going to reverse. And so he's looking at things. Jaron just couldn't. Oh, go ahead.
Mike, come on. I mean, come on. You must know by now that the likes of Jaron, Mark Sargent, Eric Dubai, and Dr. Zach, they are all paid agents of some sort to promote false models. You must know that, surely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But how come you're still talking to them?
Well, because he's trying. I mean, he's actually trying to get a point across, right? Right, Mike? I mean, you're not talking to him because you there you are. You're not talking to him because you're one of them. You're talking to them because you want to see if you can convince them, just like all the rest of us.
Right. I'm a Christian, number one, and I'm 100% scriptural, literal only. This is why 2 years ago, I realized that we were looking at what I call the spirit realm above us. God calling the sun he, the moon she, as the angels. And so I realized that what's above us is what we call the unseen realm or the spirit realm. Now, Free Energy doesn't like that term, so I just use spatial or dimensional space. And people like Cyrus and other people working on this, they don't like the term spirit realm either. So, but to me, as a Christian, I say realm of the spirit because the sun does repeat in the Pacific Ocean, has to reset again according to Ecclesiastes 1:5 and Psalm 19. Now, when you talk about Jaron, I got a big beating defending Jaron and IPS. I totally do not agree with IPS's philosophy. He admitted he practices magic. He was a Freemason. I mean, he tells you all these things. But when we're talking about, and I got Bob on Skype, I got Dit Raw on Skype. I talk to them once in a while. When we're talking about, we have to look back to the amount of damage Jaron has caused to NASA in exposing things. And same with Patricia Steer. I have her on Skype. She messaged me just the other day. And Mark Sargent, he's kind of silly in some ways, but he believes what he believes. And Eric Dubay, he's on his own little planet, but once again, I appreciate the work they have done. The thing I do as a Christian is I don't like seeing new people come in and find that we are at each other's throats, calling each other shills. We got Ronnie Harris and Jason McLaughlin of Skeptic Away Souls. They're spewing this garbage out and using scriptures. And so as for keeping the peace and saying somebody's a shill or somebody's that's not, I'm not interested in getting involved in that.
Okay, that's fair enough. And Lawrence and I both, he's going to say probably different than I do, but both of us can say that we've been treated pretty harshly just for asking questions. And we've been up and down the ladder trying different tactics over the last couple of years for everything from, ignoring them to calling them out to asking for debate. We've run the gauntlet, and none of it has worked to even get them to look at the information without mockery. And that's what I was saying earlier. They're mocking us the same way Globers mock them or mock all of us. And,
Lord,
mockery is mockery.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I understand. Would you say you guys take a Christian perspective, maybe? Because I'm not sure what I talk to Treasure Map Tim a lot. He's always messaging me. And he's always throwing scripture at everybody. And, you got to listen to Mike Helmick this, Mike Helmick that. So is basing your findings on scripture? Or
I ask you to come on and speak with us for one specific reason. Other than the fact that, you've made your own headway in Flat Earth and haven't done it necessarily from a animosity position like Lawrence and I sort of have from time to time. But I consider you someone who is a biblical scholar, and I am confused that you have all these people who call themselves Christians that are flat earthers, like Rob Skiba, Robbie Davidson. Names just go off my head when I start saying them. But anyway, they have a totally different viewpoint of what the same book says than you do. You've even written a book. What's the name of it?
Right.
What's the name of it?
Flat Earth Ends and Corners Explain When Explain.
Okay. And and you've put it out there that everybody's reading from the same book. So it's almost like the Protestant Reformation or something. Everybody was a Catholic and everybody listened to the clergy and everybody was told what the Bible said. Very few people had Bibles. I mean, if you go way back before the Gutenberg printing press thing, where very few people had a Bible and they relied on clergy to tell them what it said and to explain to them what it meant. And so now, we're in a position where everybody's got access to the same book. I don't even know how many translations there are nowadays, but there are a lot, not only in different languages, but in, different different formats, different translations. Okay. So how can everybody be reading the same book? I mean, you can go on esword.com and put in the same scripture, and it will tell you what every single translation says from all the different translations.
That's what I use.
There's not that much difference, a word here or a word there. And for example, Lawrence made a post on Facebook today that I did not respond to because I knew that we would be gathering here this evening. And it basically said, if we know that to the victor go the spoils, if we know that history has been rewritten and changed and altered by the victors or the controllers or whoever you want to call them, and then so how can we rely that the Bible wasn't also altered by them and so on? And so my response to that, Lawrence, is they are describing a flat earth in the Bible. If it were so changed and they didn't want us to know the earth was flat, they had a perfect opportunity to alter the meaning and words in the Bible from way back when that would not describe us, that would definitely describe the globe. So,
Lori.
Yeah. Okay.
Since we're on this subject,
all right, jump in.
If you if you turn to the very back, the last book of Revelations, and you go to the last line and go up 3 lines from the bottom, okay, it's Revelations, I believe it was 22:19. It's the third one from the bottom, and it is the most important part of this book, because it says, do not add to this book. So the very act of any time that somebody has messed with this book, it is, you might as well be writing yourself off, signing your soul away. Okay, it's basically what it says. Okay, so even,
well, I'm not too sure that would be a big deterrent for the evil ones, but you know, that I don't think they wouldn't try.
Well, even the evil ones know exactly what this book means. And
I know they do.
And yes, they have no problem taking from it because it has been taken from it. One of the best stories to be had in this is the story of Enoch and his life. I mean, Enoch was said to have walked with God for 300 years. Okay, and he has a marvelous story of a time before Adam and Eve, a time where the angels were warring on earth. You know, so if you take these stories out of the book, there's a reason. Well, another good bit of information with Enoch was the information on time, and God explained time to him, and explained that the stars were basically the way to tell seasons, the way to tell time. Literally, that is the way, that is God's timepiece up there for us to know what time it is. You know, it says in Genesis, and it says repeatedly throughout the book. It's very important to understand that all of this was created for a specific reason. You know, the reason why we have so much separation and division in everything is because this has been Lucifer's time ever since the dawn of the first building construction. You know, the dawn of knowledge that was not supposed to be known. You know, well, ever since that dawn, ever since that snake, you know, squirmed on into Eden and said, hey, I got something to tell you. Here, bite this apple, even though God didn't, you know, even though God said, don't touch that apple, I'll give it to you and I'll show you what this apple is. And this apple is knowledge. It's the knowledge to build. It's the knowledge to construct. It's the knowledge of science and mathematics and the way elements and forms and energy work, you know? So essentially that is what we're talking about when we're talking about an apple being plucked from the tree of forbidden knowledge. Because before that, Adam and Eve were innocent. Adam and Eve didn't need language.
Yes, of that information.
You know.
Okay. All right. So back to the argument, because it is, people are arguing within the Christian faith of flat Earth. Plus, you've got Christians who read the same Bible and believe we live on a globe. So now you got 3 versions. Okay, you get 3 camps, and you know how Christians are. Everybody thinks that what they believe, what their faith is personal and correct, and will only alter that if someone gives them, you know, proof, empirical evidence, an alternative belief of how to look at the same thing. We all know there's multiple ways to explain the same thing. And it's come to life right here in the flat Earth community, where you've got people that call themselves Christians. I'm one of them. And I've gone from the globe to something else. You know, I don't want to even call it the square because I'm not confined to that, but I'm on my 3rd permutation, and there could be a 4th that could come along once there is a better explanation of the workings of the sky.
Well,
Thomas, why don't you jump in here? Thomas, why don't you jump in here? I'm sorry.
Square, circle, triangle, it doesn't really matter. It's flat. Okay.
It is flat.
So the deception at that point, we're talking about deception of the magnitude that can hardly even be explained. You know, so if there is that much deception in just the globe, just to keep us in a singular place, because that's essentially what happened. As soon as we became a seafaring people, a people that was able to cross oceans, boom, the globe pops up out of nowhere. Before that, everybody knew it was flat.
Well,
You know,
they'll tell you that no, before then, you know, I don't even remember the order of these people, Pythagoras and Copernicus and so on. Okay. All right, Thomas, I want you to I want you to throw your 2 cents in on you also are a biblical scholar and other input. You mentioned the occult, and I would like for you to explain that, because there's people out there who hear the word occult and think of it as witches, instead of understanding the word occult means hidden. So there's more than one definition for that too.
Absolutely. Let me start. First of all, I don't believe in particle physics at all, period. I don't believe in electrons and gravitons and all these magic unicorn particles. That's not how I see the universe. So I kind of have an explanation for the circle of the earth thing. A lot of people don't like it, but here's what I think. This creation or this manifestation is electrical in nature. Being electrical in nature, it's going to be toroidal in shape. I believe when you're talking about the circle of the earth, you're literally talking about a ball. But I believe you're talking about the torus that surrounds the entire earth. Now, I look at the flat earth like this. Ferrocell at a magnet. You're going to notice in the dead center of your ferrocell, you'll see what's called the plane of inertia. On one side, you'll have a pole, and on the other side, you'll have a pole. And from these 2 poles, your torus forms. Now that plane of inertia between them 2 poles, that's where we're at. We're dead center between 2 poles on that equilibrium point. So I'm thinking that this circle of the earth thing is the entire torus itself. Everything in this creation is made of toruses. Your body, trees, grass, your cat, and the entire creation itself is a giant circle. So there's no question about it that this is the circle of the earth. Now, whether it's a plane or whether it's a realm, that's a whole nother discussion. But yes, it absolutely is a circle. There's actually no such thing as a straight line. When you get down to the basics of magnetism and stuff like that, there's no question. If you follow the magnetic patterns of a magnet, there's no question about what you're seeing in the sky. Your North Pole turns one way, your South Pole turns another way. This is telling me beyond question, this is exactly what a magnetic torus does. When you see it, and when I look out there, I look for the sky, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a giant torus. If we live inside of a torus, and we do, then there's your ball right there. Your flat earth is right in between the North Pole and the South Pole.
So the circle that you're talking about is this magnetic enclosure. For example, the scripture that says God looked down on the circle of the earth and we were like grasshoppers.
Right.
So you're not talking about the terrestrial plane. You're talking about the celestial. Okay.
Everything, the totality of it. I think the totality of it is called Earth. I don't think it's meant to be that the land itself is, well, that's Earth right there, just the land. There's more to his creation. There's the sky. There's 3 different heavens we're talking about here. I mean, there's a lot to this creation, not just one particular point of it being a landmass. So yeah, I think it's the bigger picture. I think Isaiah's talking about the bigger overall picture, and that everything is a circle.
Okay.
So
that's where I see.
Go ahead, Mike.
You're referring to Isaiah 40:22?
Yes.
Okay. That Hebrew word circle is a male noun. It's not a shape of something.
Right.
It was right. So it can't be describing a shape. Now we look at the toroidal field in a modeling program, a surrounding Earth, possibly electromagnetic field. that explains a spatial space where things just repeat, where the physical creation ends. But that word you're looking at is actually Hebrew male noun. It's not it can't be a shape of something. It's a place above earth.
Okay, you're saying that really fast, Mike. For those who can't really hear what you're saying, say the word
I'm
slower.
sorry, clearly, or
No, you talk fast. The rest of
Oh,
us
do
are
I?
kind of Southern sounding to you compared to you.
okay,
We
y'all.
talk
There.
real slow.
How you doing? Okay. Well, amen. Glory to God. No, the word circle is a male noun. It's based on the verb circle around or encompass around. I don't think the translators knew what to do with it. He that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, the heavens, there are grasshoppers. And he spread it that circle, that firmament, it's not the firmament, but it's he spread it that over the earth. So where heaven is spread over the earth, that's where things end. And he sits above that. So we can't take a male noun and turn it into a shape without a
One thing
Hebrew adjective.
about that. Now, that was a good point that you bring that up, because even though I see the map being squarish or diamondish or whatnot, if you look inside of a torus, generally speaking, that plane of inertia, although it is, a straight longitudinal plane, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that plane itself is circular between your North Pole and your South Pole. I believe, even though we might live in a rectangular strip of it,
Right.
I do believe that plane, the dielectric plane, is circular. So that could also possibly be the circle of Earth. It could be a huge dielectric plane with us sitting in the dead center in that. Well,
right now that's what we're looking at, a toroidal field that surrounds, that encompasses the Earth. It possibly electromagnetic field produced by the sun that excites.
Yeah, there you go.
I've got it on screen, Kevin.
Yeah, there's a good view.
I think you're a little too close. If you could back that up just a little bit, because it's making it blurry. But that's the toroidal field concept.
Right. And the flat part is that Thomas is speaking of is that dielectric center.
The blue-green section.
It's where opposing tornadoes reciprocating into the center of each end of a magnet converge at the convergence point, which creates spark or discharge, which starts the whole thing back over again. It's essentially, the Greeks called it incommensurability, and where Thomas has gotten this is there's a lovely book, and everybody should check it out. It's Uncovering the Missing Secrets of Magnetism by Ken L. Wheeler. And if you're interested in knowing the fundamental mechanics of field mechanics, which is the toroidal force around us all, then you should definitely check out this book.
Okay, you got to stop moving that around because you're making me crazy dizzy.
I'm sorry.
We modeled it.
Okay.
And
all right.
We believe that the sun, through electromagnetic field, maybe it's photons. Now, I know you don't believe in physical particle physics, so that's fine. We're looking at all things. Agitating these noble gases or inert gases above us, like argon, and argon produces blue. So we have two different lights, or our daylight systems, as the sun passes by. And so we're looking at that. We're looking at this toroidal field that surrounds the Earth, and we're trying to understand how things skip on over to the other side. I mean, obviously, where there's nothing, then it has to start something again. And so we were looking at everything that you guys mentioned.
Okay. Well, and see, once you sort of at least decide that you're going to look at other ideas, okay? You wouldn't have looked at flat Earth in the first place if you weren't curious. What happened to that curiosity when someone offers something for you to entertain as a different perspective? And if you fully check it out and it just doesn't pass muster, then okay, just say no, thank you, and that's not going to work for me. But to mock somebody who says, well, I'll show you this and this and this reason why what you believe doesn't work, okay, and then most people need to have that replaced with something else. They can't just believe in nothing. Okay. And so they're hold tight to what they did buy into, at least initially, until there's enough evidence to get them to move off, because nobody likes to be wrong. No one likes to be told you're wrong. I mean, those are like fighting words for a lot of people. You're wrong, or no, you know. When someone says to me, you're wrong, I'm like, yeah, my initial reaction is, whoa, couldn't you have picked a little bit, you know, less strong words? And so, and so that's my own ego. That's my own id fighting back to, you know, someone rejecting what I believe. And, you know, we sure have a lot of billions of people on Earth, and you still have a majority of them that think we live on a globe. So now what happens is we're relegated to our own little groupthink people who are flat earthers. Now let's bring it down to the, you know, let's go from the macro and go to the micro and fight amongst ourselves, you know, and continue this whole concept. So Lawrence, we haven't heard anything from you much. So do you have some questions you would like to pose to our guests? And you are, of course, muted. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I was looking into this Greenland theory. I don't know whether you've looked at that as yet. Have you looked at Greenland theory? It's a very interesting document.
I'll just say this about Greenland. Everybody lives on these little tiny islands with a bunch of chunks of ice floating around. Nobody lives in Greenland, as far as I can tell. And I find that suspicious. That's as far as I've looked into that.
Okay, well, if you work through the document, I haven't read it all, but I've read through the parts on religion.
Start off, Lawrence, with naming what document you're talking about for those listening.
If you just type in Greenland conspiracy, you'll get a good document which tells you that what it's effectively saying is that the Roman Empire faked their demise and altered the timeline by 1,300 years. The reason being for the Dark Ages was to make it seem that the fall of the Roman Empire was a very long time ago. But the Roman Empire were never militarily defeated. In fact, they were extremely well organized, military and you know, in terms of being builders. They built around 150,000 miles of roads in Europe, allegedly about 2,000 years ago. And when you look at road building today, most of the main roads are built on the, you know, what's left of the Roman roads, dating back to however. So very unlikely that they would be militarily defeated when they were so well organized, and they were, you know, they were widespread throughout Europe. But when you look through the document, it's giving me the impression that all of the religions of today were all created by the Roman Empire to divide and rule the population from their new base in Greenland. And I started looking at all these holy books, Mike. I'm one of them may be correct, but I don't know. So you look at all these holy books and you say, well, who wrote it? When did they write it? And how was this information passed on to the person who wrote it? And it's all, you know, like telepathy from their God to do it. So all of these religions cannot be correct. You know, they could all be incorrect. They could all be put there to divide and rule the population.
Well, Lawrence, I got a little bit of insight in this. I had the same question you did. And what I did was I went through religion by religion and went through book after book and creation story after creation story. And what I found is the similarities in all. So essentially, most of the stories came from the same knowledge at one point in time. All right. So we got to go back to when was the first civilization, and, you know, where did this all start? And essentially, it all comes back.
Let me ask you, I have a question stemming from that. So we know that the bad people have been, you know, treated us all as slaves for, you know, at least 500 years. So if they wanted us to have one Bible of sorts, one holy book, they would have ensured that we would have had just one holy book. And they, obviously, because they write the content of all these books, as Laurie said before,
see,
you look at the date of the printing press and the date of Copernicus, they're pretty much at the same sort of timeline. They could have made Earth a globe, but they didn't.
For sure. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And what we have is just mismanagement, okay? And what we have is two conflicting stories that spun into, you know, what we have in modern day. You know, we have the story of the darkness, and we have the story of divine inspiration through the ages, and then a story of a man named Jesus Christ who was the Messiah. The altercation of that is stories that were told by the fallen ones, or Lucifer's army of angels that are still on the planet today. It says so in scriptures. And they're products of laying with women who are the Nephilim. You know, we were talking about giants, we were talking about angels, we were talking about a all-powerful God that has the ability to create all of this, you know, so nothing's out of the realm of possibilities. We have many stories, but what essentially is all these, you know, polytheistic ideologies, you know, the Greek mythology and the Hindus and all of this is essentially the fallen angels that taught man forbidden knowledge. Various ones taught, you know, the different ones taught different things to the population of man that ultimately gave us knowledge that we weren't supposed to have. Otherwise, everything would be perfect and everything would be like Eden, and we go up to a tree and pluck a fruit and then boom, it pop back. You know, we wouldn't need language because we could interact just by mental capacity. You know, that is the realization that I've come to understand. I mean, I'm working on a more direct way of explaining that, but I wasn't prepared for it today, so it'll have to be for another day that I'll present it. But I've worked on this for quite some time, and I've come up with a wonderful story that spans the ages. You know.
Well, that will be interesting to hear. So we'll have to have you back for that.
With God's creation, though, I mean, if this is, you know, apart from all the trouble and strife, if this is how He created it, then it's not the God that I know. I know there is a divine creator out there, but I wouldn't turn to label it God. I mean, and if I were, you know, if I was God, I wouldn't create a place to live where, you know, if you're born a gazelle, you're going to get eaten by a lion. I mean, what sort of God would do that? Just as an example.
That's not the way it was. That's not the way it was created, Lawrence. That's not the way it was created in the beginning. Mike, you probably want to jump in on that one, don't you?
I'm not a 66 only, literal scripture only, and I don't want to get involved in all that stuff.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of Enoch at all. It has many scriptural contradictions. The concept with the Nephilim, and it's based on one scripture in Genesis, and Peter tells us not to take any scripture, interpret it privately, and make a doctrine out of it. We have to break what we're told not to do to turn that one scripture in Genesis into devils having sex with humans. And, you know, then we have other counter scriptures.
Why do you think that one liner was even put in there? To me, it's one of those things where we got a secret, and here's just one little bitty bit of it, and the rest of it you don't get to know, and you can't make stuff up either.
No, if you read the order it's written, it's not even first. The Hebrew word for Nephilim means tyrant, based on the ancient word fallen tree, giant, until it was mixed with the Aramaics, and the actual Hebrew word for giant says Raphaim. But, you know, I'm not going to get into, I promise, Captain Obvious, I don't know if you've heard of him, but I promise I would not openly trash Enoch or
okay, well, and we're not asking you to talk about anything that you're uncomfortable with, because you can speak. Well, I mean, you can speak on anything you want when you're doing your own podcast, obviously.
Right.
Okay, so wait, I'm moderating here, and I'm going to keep this focus on the purpose that I wanted to get you guys together, because, as you can probably tell, you come from 4 different minds, and I come from a 5th. Okay, and we each have our trail that we arrived at where we are right now. All of the input, all of the baggage, all of the lies, all of the, you know, good things and bad things that have happened to us, where we were born, who we were born to, what we learned in school, what we've rejected, all of it. Okay. And so one of the things that was supposed to happen, that everybody had high hopes of about flat Earth, was that it was a human awakening of spirit and mind and joy, of knowing that you're released from a lie, and your journey then is to go on an adventure of personal discovery, of, wow, you know, I've got a whole new world here to think about. And I can swear that I didn't think that it was going to be about, you're a shill. No, you're a shill. Now, you believe it's round and you're stupid. You believe it's square and you're really dumb. And people like, you know, Eric Dubay calling out Darren Nesbitt and calling him a shill in a very long post today or yesterday, and all of his cronies that believe the same thing he does. And there's no 2 of us that believe the same thing. Even if you all said, you're square earthers, you're round earthers, no 2 of those groups of people believe all the same thing. What the hell happened to this awakening and did we forget the purpose of the awakening?
Can't we all just get along?
Well, the purpose in my mind, and this is, and so here I would like to introduce this as the next topic. My purpose for awakening was twofold. I realized that this flat Earth thing shows a created world. Okay. Now, whether or not you want to argue about who created it, that's the first step, is that this place was created, because you can't just big bang anything into what we have if it's flat. Okay. And you can't evolve it into that either. It's just not possible. The odds are astronomical that we ended up with this. If it just came out of nothing. The second thing, wait, this is your first hangout, I can tell. Okay, the second thing is, and then you'll get to talk, I thought that it was supposed to be about us throwing off these liars and rulers who, and evil, you know, people who were trying to control the world. Yeah, okay. I thought that was the other part about what this was about, to open up the lies and to let freedom of thought and expression and ideas and humanity, and can't we just all love one another and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was supposed to be about that, and that ain't happening. So somebody take that.
I think this young man.
Or am I the only one? Or am I the only one that,
I
thinks
got something
that?
to say about it after everybody's done.
Okay.
Because Laura, you absolutely right. You know, I've talking with Carly Sunshine and you know, Bob Glowbusters. You know, my question is, okay, great, we found out they lied to us, but where does that lead you from there?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what do we do with that? Okay, so and then we have all these different perspectives. For me as a Christian, the only reason I'm involved in this is because they'll have to do at the end times. And if you read, for me, and what I believe the Lord's telling me to do is, one, make people aware, but number two, you know, Satan's going to set up, according to the book of Thessalonians, and he's going to set up as God, as creator, as ruler. The whole world will worship him. That's in Revelations 11. Everybody worships him. So we know it's probably not going to be a human, because that's never happened in history before. It's probably going to be some type of angelic being. It's also going to prove that he created everything. And to do that, we're actually helping him do that. Right now, our government already has a bill in the House to effectively do away with satellites, the idea of them. The ESA last year announced that they back findings of a geocentric model and a flat universe due to microwave cosmic radiation background readings. And so I already see this shift into proving, handing this new creator that's coming to the earth a flat, created, simulation.
Oh, yeah, we got to throw
holographic
that in
stuff,
there. Got to throw that simulation in there.
That's where it's going. That's exactly where it's going. That he made it, and he's going to explain it, and we're going to already have half explained it for him. That's where I come in. My take on the scriptures. Where does flat earth lead you? Does it lead you to Lord Jesus Christ? Does it lead you to the God, the one that can save you? Are you just in it for the ride, the drama, their line? Because I'll be honest, I'm tired of debunking NASA. And I had Archer Sage. He's so his zeal because he's new at this, but I just have to tell him. And I got all these posts. Mike, what do you think about NASA? This? What do you think about NASA? Okay. It's just you get to a point that they lie about everything. And that's the point I wanted to move on. And you're absolutely right. Where does this lead you, and where's it important? Now I have Carly Sunshine. She doesn't understand why when she's mentioning IPS, oh yeah, we'll have fortune cookies and come join us. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm bringing a Ouija board, divining rod, and
oops.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. She might as well just say that. And so there's a lot of Christians. Flat Earth comprised of a lot of Christians. So people like Bob and Jaron and Carly Sunshine. Morgall's a Christian. He'll name the name of the Lord Jesus. But talking to David Weiss, Deborah, he said, he's come around. He likes to listen to about Jesus, but he's still not sure about stuff. And so we have that Christians versus non-Christians. Now, I've been the last 20 years, we also have Christians themselves. And to be honest, they hate each other. And before it was doctrines of, do you speak in tongues? Do you not speak in tongues? Do you believe in Arminianism, Calvinism? And we've always been at each other's throats. Nothing has changed. And so now we got this new Hebrew cult thing, Yeshua Amahande, Yamaha My Way, Tedescu, Harley, Yohava Davidson. Guys coming at me, telling me, well, the real name is Jesus. Yeah, I'm fully aware of the J, okay, but I don't need to listen to that nonsense. And so they're attacking me. I got other Christians.
All I got to add to that, Mike, is if I throw down a prayer and I use that name, it works. So if he's not answering to it because that's not the right name, then who's answering those prayers? Okay, lots of people pray under that name. So all this you got to say the right name argument is like another one of those macro to the micro things.
Yeah, it's the intention. It's the intention that's key. It's the intention that's key.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And actually, that comes from Freemasonry. They're trying to find the right name of God. That's exactly the camp that comes out of. And I obey all the scriptures. Jesus said in Mark 16, "Believe my name, you shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover," and it works. They do recover. Same with James. If any sick among you, let him call the elders of the church, let them anoint him with oil. And the prayer of faith will save the sick, and if they committed any sin, it shall be forgiven them, and God will rise them up.
Well, I mean, you can go online and just type in things like, healing by prayer, and holy crap, you'll get a billion, reviews from people who will testify that they've been healed through prayer. So whether or not you believe they have or not, they believe they have, and that's all that really matters, doesn't it? So right. But let's get back to this.
Fighting.
Okay, so back to the fighting. All right. I don't need to fight with anybody. It don't mean that much to me to mean that much to you, that you agree with what I believe or not. And I'll listen to what you have to say, and I'll be as charming as I can be. And I might make a couple of faces when you say something weird, but I will defend your right to believe it or to say it or to have this opinion. And I expect the same thing in return. I think that's just very golden rule-ish. Okay. And so, the fact that there's all this infighting absolutely tells me without any doubt that this is infiltrated. Okay. Now I know people fight amongst themselves. For crying out loud, families fight amongst themselves. No, nobody fights like families fight, right?
Right.
Okay. But this shillery stuff and this trying to pit people against each other and all that, to me, is an infiltration of what started out to be an awakening and a movement and a community and all that. And I was in it on the first wave. Now, first wave was the end of 2014, early 2015. That's what we call the first wave. And that's when I came in. And everybody was happy and joyous and amazed. And oh my gosh, this is like something I always knew was wrong with the world. And now I know. And they all had this camaraderie with each other in the groups and all that. And of course, they together fought the trolls and the trolls with the globetards and the globers and all that. Okay. I pulled myself out of that immediately. I don't have enough time in my life to argue with people who just are going to call me names and aren't going to listen to anything I say. So I'm going to try to focus my work within waking up people who want to listen, who I can intrigue into listening about it. And along with it comes, now that we know this, don't we want to wake up more people? And don't we want to, take back our world from all these evil creeps and so on, and expose the lies and so on and so forth? So somebody else, go ahead. Thomas, do you have
Mike? Question.
Okay,
Mike.
Lawrence, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Mike, the guy next to you.
Oh,
I was going to ask Mike.
Kevin. Kevin.
No, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, Mike.
Mike.
Me?
Am I
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike is in the center on your little screen down there, Lawrence. And
I see me on the
Oh,
right,
sorry.
but okay.
but they might be out of order compared to what I have.
Mike.
Oh, this is funny.
Yeah, Mike. Presumably, you've rejected the Big Bang theory, and you're 100% in the camp that this place we live in was created by God. Do you think he created it by thought or physically built it, brick by brick, ocean by ocean, or some other means? How was this place actually put together? Was it just in his mind, or did he make it?
Well, read Hebrews 11, chapter 11. Now we know, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Belief says, by faith the elders obtain a good report. And then verse 3, I believe, says something that by faith we know the worlds were framed by the word of God. That things which appear were made out of things that can't be seen. So by the substance of faith in what he spoke, things, and you can see the same account take place in Genesis chapter 1. And God said, "Let there be," and what he says happens.
Okay, so you're saying that he spoke into existence, and I read that literally also, that the word, the sound,
right,
created the world. Okay, so we have Thomas over here goes, there's no photons and no electrons. Okay, so, and then we know that there's no simulation. Everybody's just a 1 or a 0 and a combination thereof. And we know that there's no Nephilim, creating us. So one of them could come in any time and be all Math Powerland on here and say, "I started this." Sorry.
Yeah.
He just did that this week. He went all, "I started this movement" thing this week. Okay, so yeah.
So I'm looking from a.
Okay, so you're saying God spoke and the world was created.
Right, and we have that account in Genesis, and we have faith is a substance. The gentleman here does not believe in particle physics, but they do. If you did, and you had the slit experiment, they found out that particles like photons, electrons have consciousness.
Well, hold on. Well, what the mistake is with the double slit experiment is they're not taking into account the dielectric forces that are spinning around all spatial matter. All matter is space. Space is not outside of anything. Space is only inside the center of all atomic mass, and then you have variables upon variables upon variables. And what Thomas is saying is that the whole idea of relativity and the whole idea of quantum mechanics and all these virtual protons and all kinds of flying stuff around is all BS. It's all fed to us. It's all lies and deceit. Okay.
Well, isn't that conversation and that science where people spun that into the simulation theory?
Well,
Right.
there's two.
The what is the quantum theorists or whatever
There's
theorists,
different-
theoretical physicists?
It's all math.
There's so many names.
And it looks good when you do math, but other than that, there's no basis in reality.
Mike,
Well, okay,
Correct.
Lawrence has another question.
Mike, God, I'm not
Go ahead, Lawrence.
being devil's advocate here. I'm not being flippant in any way, but God, the supreme creator, who thought us into existence, why did it take him a week? Why wouldn't it be just instantaneous?
I don't know.
Well, it is.
One thing
Can you create,
there.
Lawrence, as a creative person? I can't paint a picture in a flash of a second, even though I have the thought of what I visualize what it's going to be like, So give the guy a little the little time to think it through and add. I think I'll put this here, and I think I'll add that there. We don't know what a week was.
Well, maybe you spent a week on the computer.
Well, actually, I'll give you a little bit of time. I'll give you a little bit of time.
One at a time.
Look, when you break everything down to the smallest bit, it's like we're all machines and all this DNA and everything else. So if we were thought into existence, all this information had to be brought together. So God and maybe a team, they sat out there, godlike computers and tapped in all the parameters for this place that we live in. They had to do that. Somebody had to do it. You couldn't just think it. They would have to do it. That's why it took a week.
Oh,
Well, I mean, you're bringing God down to your minuscule level of abilities, Lawrence.
Well, really, it took him a week. He said it took him a week.
Well, how long would it take you to create all of this?
Well, it depends on what you've got, but God took a week to do it.
It
was
actually
Hey,
was only
Lawrence,
6
all
days.
right. You used the operative word there. He took a week. He may have been able to do it in a day or an hour or a flash of a second, but he took a week. So you understand that one word changes the context of how long it took, because we don't know what the intention was of creating the thing in the first place. CERN did it for the purpose of of creation.
So, all right. Well, even if you could create a place in a week, and it all went belly up with all the bad things that happened here, then in another week you could similarly create another place and just rectify the model so that it worked as he intended. Why didn't he do that?
Well, how do you know
okay, go on.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, Lawrence, I appreciate all your questions, and certainly maybe a discussion about Bible sometime. But God is a God of order. And why didn't he slap Satan around when Satan pulled that mess he did with Adam and Eve? And then the fact is, Adam obeyed him. God gave the earth to Adam, and so now Satan is the rightful owner. God is a God of integrity too, and a lot of abilities and things people assign to God. Like God is everywhere, omniscient. Well, that's not a scripture. God is sovereign. That's not a scripture. You know, and there's places in the Word where God says I had to go down and look, and then I'll know. It's just God is not as we want God to be. God is as He said in His Word. And if it says it took Him a week, and okay, well then He took a week. Maybe the elements had to settle. Maybe the waters had to fully fill in before He started on something else. I don't know, but I just believe what he had a reason.
Mike, meet Lawrence, the guy who not only questions everything, but questions the minutia of everything. Okay,
which is perfectly great.
Which is good in one aspect, and could probably drive some people, you know, crazy in another aspect. So, but that's our Lawrence. So it is what it is. But Lawrence, you think. Okay, it's okay to ask a question, but you're grilling. You can tell by the way a belief into it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you find the Bible and God to have flaws, and I'm not understanding why that bothers you. Okay, I would just ignore it from that point on. Find out, you know, by reading the scripture, what better intention He may have had for allowing for free will. Because I know I wouldn't want to create a species and a world and everything and have it be all ordered and robotic and no free will. I mean, to me, the universal law of free will is what makes all of this the best experiment ever.
That's right, Lori. And actually, if you guys want to look up the Platonic Lambda, okay, and actually this is the symbol. Okay, and what it is the 11th letter of the Greek alphabet. It's also an Egyptian symbol, but if you look up the Platonic Lambda, you're going to come up with something like this, and you have divinity doubling on this side, and life doubling on this side. Okay, and what they add up to is 55. This is the 11th letter, which is the angelic letter. You have doubling of life on one side, 8 being the spark that creates the egg of life, and this 27 down here is essentially a hash rate. In Sanskrit, it's referred to as the joy giver. Okay, and if you turn to Genesis 1:27, you're going to find that the joy giver was us. The verse 127 in the Bible in Genesis is where He created us, and we. Everything before that was good. We were the joy giver. We helped Him understand love, because everything before that point was controlled. Like Lori said, it was a program that was written, and boom, it ran. You know, so there was no free will. It was His control. And if there's no free will, it's rape. You know, so I mean, that's a harsh word to use, but essentially it's saying that if I program this, all it's going to do is what I programmed it to do. What gave Him joy, and what let Him understand love, was the fact that this animal, this creation, had choice. It had beast and divinity in it, so it could go either way. And even when it found out that it was being controlled by a, you know, cosmic creator, it could still use that knowledge for good or bad. You know, that alone was enough to allow Him to understand appreciation, so to speak. You know, that's kind of my interpretation. What I've gained from what I know. You know, we were the joy giver, and that's why He so loved us. You know, the Bible and Scripture, it's not a story of everything that happened. It's a short little clip of everything that happened, and then the story of God and His people, His joy givers. The Bible was literally written for us.
Okay. Interesting. I think you should, you're going to have to sit and make a video, a little number thing, because I have like a number freak out thing. And I would love to be able to see you explain this number and how it works with scripture and so on. It a little bit creeps me out because I have like a little thing that niggles me in my heart when something doesn't quite jive with what I should be hearing or should be feeling about the information that I'm getting. So, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave that open, and I'm not going to be judgmental because I try not to do that either. But what I want to get back to again, because we keep digressing, and that is, what are our expectations? Why are we continuing to do this? Why are we continuing, each of us individually, thousands and hundreds of thousands of us all over the world, continuing to research this and care about this truth, and spending an awful lot of time and energy. People are breaking up families, people are breaking up couples. Some people are, bringing their kids into flat earth and possibly setting them up for trouble at school. Some of them are bringing them out of school and homeschooling them because, they don't want their kids indoctrinated the way they got indoctrinated. I mean, it's a big across the board thing. So what are we supposed to hope for this thing? The only reason why Lawrence and I took off into trying to debunk this false map the minute we felt that it was false and this false model was because, we didn't want people to get indoctrinated again into another lie. And we felt that's what was happening.
Are you
and what would happen.
you talking about the AE map, Lori?
Yes, I'm talking about the AE map and model. And I'll give you one of my friends on Facebook that I've been friends with, became a flat earther. And I don't know if I had anything to do with it. And it doesn't matter. Girl in my newsfeed, and I see her posting about flat earth, and she's got crickets on her board. Nobody's saying anything. And so I gave her a thumbs up. And then the next thing I know, I get a notification that she's posted a picture under that thread. So I go and look at the picture, and boom, oh, what do I see? The little round circle with the snow globe over the top of it. Thank you, Thomas. The picture with the snow globe over the top, the Yahweh's terrarium from Rob Skiba. Okay. And the minute I see that, I can't help myself. I say, this is a false model. Maybe you need to look into research more that this is a disinformation model. And I kind of expected that I was going to get, what are you talking about? Everybody in flat earth puts this up, and this is the flat earth model. Well, I wouldn't expect you to, beat up on me about it. But I was very, slow and added some more comments and said, here's why. And next thing I know, she puts up Mark Sargent's flat earth clues. And I was like, okay, so she's really that new that she's running the gauntlet of all the same, right down the line of all the same characters, the gurus of flat earth. And I had a problem with, should I keep pestering her, or should I just let her work her way through it like I did? Or, what is my purpose if I'm going to keep acting like, oh, no, that's wrong. No, sorry. You want to listen to what I'm telling you to listen to. Do you see my dilemma? I don't want to do that to people. I want them to find their own journey.
Well,
What do you guys think? Where are we going to go with this? Because this thing is going to hit the mainstream. Even Mike just said so. They're going to come out with a flat earth model, right?
This is actually putting up a billboard. He's paying for. I don't know if you guys heard of him. He's ex-CIA, but up a billboard, whatever your thoughts on IPS or not, that brings people to my channel regardless, so I'm thankful that he's done that. It's going to go. It's going to take off. And when you're asking about, the way I look at the azimuthal equidistance is that somebody's going to come along and discourage them if they're holding on to the wrong model. And and as you know, Laura,
Already
you saw this
happening.
probably when you got into this early, like I did, you probably saw a lot of prominent flat earthers give up because of that model. Tiger Dan 925 comes to mind. That's my only concern with it. And I think the only thing I need to say to them is that there's flat, and if you're going to get the snot beat out of you by globe earthers over that model, I've got the right model according to scripture if you look at it, or however you want to approach it. But I don't think there's a reason to get bent out of shape about it. And the azimuthal looks a whole lot cooler on a T-shirt than a flat square map does anyway. So
Sure does.
They
made sure they did it right, right?
Right, I'm just throwing that out.
But what Lawrence and I were concerned with when we first started out, and what made us just grind our teeth, was when and if the mainstream media starts to really put flat Earth in more media, that they are going to use this model. And of course, Eric Dubay says this and Mark Sargent says that, because these are the names that you Google first. And we were concerned that it would be mocked because we've already mocked it ourselves. And so, the sad thing is that there for a while, I was almost prepared to stop calling myself a flat earther because I didn't want to be lumped in with that model, because whether we like it or not, up to now, it's the official model of the flat earth. It just so happens to be the Flat Earth Society model. Okay. And yet every flat earther will say, the Flat Earth Society, is disinfo. But then, it's the same thing. Blah, 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 the ice wall. And you go, you hear the record scratch across your head. And you go, wait, no, what ice wall? There's no ice wall. Who's proved an ice wall? A few hundred miles of a few hundred miles of ice wall does not make an entire 70,000 mile perimeter. Sorry. But see, the problem is then they add the globe over the top of it, and then they say, those people, when they say, why doesn't all the water fall off? Because then we got that answer. And then they, with the people who say, how many times have you seen the meme already of the cat on the flat earth circle knocking, if it was a flat disc, all the cats would have knocked everything off of it by now. And so I don't want to be associated with that, is my whole point. But everybody deserves their own journey. But I would be remiss if I did not warn them that I've already discovered, and hope that you see the same as I see, that this is disinformation and was created as a campaign to get everybody on board with it.
Absolutely.
Dogma.
Yeah,
That's what they call dogma.
They've even gone so far as to make up false books from the 1800s. There's 3 books from the 1800s, late 1800s. They're all exactly the same, with an ice wall, and where it gets the lines of latitude get longer as you get further south from the equator. They're all much of a muchness, and they're supposedly like eccentric characters, but the basics of the model is identical into them all. And Eric Dubay, you say he's done some good work, Mike. He hasn't done any. All he's done is read from a script and just republish the work of Rowbottom and these other guys and put his own name to it. He hasn't done anything.
I can honestly say too, Mike, if you could show me any original research that Eric Dubay has done, I would like to see it. And the
Well-
same, and the same with others. The reason why I say that is because they're the ones, to me, somebody like Eric Dubay, for those of us who know that that map and model is debunked officially,
Right.
they're public enemy number one to me if they refuse to give up this model or at least stop promoting it. But they won't. They're not going to stop promoting it because it has engaged their audience to date. It has made them flat earth gurus for people who like to follow gurus. And it has also created a scenario where if you say anything against it, you're an immediate new member of the Shill Wall of Shame. And he'll be glad to show you all of the people who are on that list.
Well, see that there's for as much information as there is 5 or 10 times as much disinformation. You know, so it's
every
really
bit.
hard to articulate what is fact and what is not. You know, luckily, I mean, out of us 4, luckily we have the ability to see through at least some of the bullshit. You know, pardon my language. But there's a lot of it, and it's by design.
Okay. Okay, so Thomas started out asking before we went on air. We were still getting, pardon me, everything ready, and he asked Lawrence about how do we define and describe Pac-Man as a theory? How do we, the word, how do we prove it? But how do we define it? How do we explain it to where lay people will understand? I mean, I've watched some of the shows from the Sun and Moon group. Mike, I think you were on one of those. And, you know, they had a series, or what is his real name? Demeter?
No clue. Series, what I call it.
Series has been accumulating a ton of data off of Google Maps and Google Earth and time and date and all of this, and combining them in a program that's been running for a long time. And he's, you know, mapping all of this stuff using all this data. And he's coming up with a kind of a virtual computer simulation of what all this data is supposed to mean. Well, part of me says, I don't know that that's the whole purpose of this thing. Is it really? Is to come up with a definitive map and model and concept? Isn't it aren't we supposed to be children of wonder? Aren't we supposed to, you know, be in awe of God's creation instead of trying to break it down to electrons and simulations and all that stuff?
That was originally the idea.
Well, I mean,
one
person, people will tell you on one hand, oh, you know, this is supposed to be making life simpler. We're supposed to get back to our roots of, you know, being human and loving one another and community and all that stuff, instead of all of this isolation that we've all become and, you know, sucked into because of that's the way society is. And I feel like trying to describe this creation that took 7 days to do, Lawrence, is counterintuitive to the purpose of becoming a flat earther. The purpose of that was to realize you're being lied to about a lot of things. And what is the reason why they would lie? Isn't that the number one question every flat earther gets? What do you guys say? What do you guys answer when people ask you, why would they make this lie? Why would they lie? Thomas, you go first.
Well, my reason is Mark Sargent's old answer, and that was to hide God, because I literally feel I take the Bible both literally and allegorically, but I go back to the Bible and it says, thou shalt be like God. And here's the problem with that. if I'm going to be like God because I ate this fruit, well, there can't be a real God looking right over my shoulder. I have to get rid of that God. I have to hide him somehow. Then I can be God in my deluded little world.
Oh, that makes some sense. Okay, I never heard it quite put that way before. That makes a little sense.
So yeah, I think it's really it really goes back to that whole philosophy that they're hiding God to keep us under control, because I think Scripture. I absolutely believe the Scripture. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do. I do take the Scripture literally, but like I said, I also take it allegorically. And I believe that when I'm picking up my Bible, I believe what I'm picking up, the leftover science that was left. I believe the world is subject to destructions, periodic cyclic destructions. Like the Mayans talk about, there's 4 worlds, and this is the 5th, and the last 4 were all destroyed. And there's a lot of different cultures that have these. And I think there's a group of people that go through each of the world cycles, and they record science. They've made so much progress. I think before Noah's flood, a group of people did just that. I believe the Scriptures is a giant book on magnetism. I believe that once the flood was over, because it was an allegory and people couldn't generally understand it, that they mistook it for religion and tucking garden snakes and all kind of other nonsense that it was never meant to be. So to answer your question earlier about explaining about my ideas, what the cult is, some kind of witchcraft thing to me, or like
Your sound is cutting in and out. Thomas, I'm sorry. Sadly.
Awesome.
Maybe it's your ear thing or something. I don't know.
I'm trying to tweak things here so I can hear him.
Okay, me too. And the end just cut out there.
So my point is,
okay.
my point was, my personal war is with evolution and the Big Bang. And to me, that's why I'm really into flat Earth, because that's my #1 weapon. Because the moment I prove flat Earth, I've automatically destroyed the Big Bang. There's no swirling dust clouds that turned into a ball.
Right.
I've destroyed it. Now, with that in mind, now that just proves that you have to have an intelligent designer. You have no choice now.
Right.
You have to accept that. And then not only that, if you understand what time is and what space is, and neither one of them actually exists, you'll understand that whatever created this place is utterly outside of time and space. This whole thing, this whole idea, on the other hand, though, how do I explain it? Okay, here's a good way to explain it. In 1 John 5:7, it says, there are 3 who bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and these 3 are one. Now, keep that verse in mind. In real science, we know, well, if you believe as I do, I suppose, there is the ether. The ether is utterly counterspatial. It takes up no space whatsoever. It is the opposite of space. That is heaven to me. Now, there are 3 things in that ether. There's magnetism, there's dielectricity, and there's electricity. These 3 are one. They're all the same thing. They're just different modalities of the one. It's all one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this ether, this is counterspatial, takes up no space at all. The first thing God does is say something. He says, let there be light. He's creating a perturbation. He's creating a vibration in the ether field. He's expanding his magnetism and creating. So to me, that's the real solution to the proof that God is there and that he actually is creating. And flat Earth is the key that unlocks the door. Magnetism is the key that unlocks the door. So I come from this to attack all the evolutionists and Big Bang guys.
All right, you cut out there again in the end. And I'm going to give you a suggestion. I think your microphone is on your ear buds.
Yeah.
So I think it might be messing in your hair or your beard or something. So maybe when you're talking, put it up here where we can hear you better. I don't know. Give it a try next time. All right. So, Kevin, do you have something to add to that, or?
Yeah, I would actually, yeah. why I think all the deception is just like you know, Thomas and I are very like-minded, and he knows what he's talking about a lot. And that's all really due to Ken Wheeler. Ken Wheeler's done a lot of work as far as that's concerned, and that's the only reason why I know what I know as far as energy and frequency and vibration are concerned. But if we're talking about a fundamental force, you know, that is all, yes, it is ether, and it was talked about by the great mechanics and the great engineers of, you know, the last 200-300 years, but it was just thrown out basically because once you start getting into that deeper and deeper, there's only one realization, and that is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is all, and all is all is all, and ether is ether is ether, and it doesn't matter how you say it, you know, it is what it is. Why the deception? It is, you know, I like what Kevin Spacey says in The Usual Suspects. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. You know, most everybody in society today thinks that we are speaking of a metaphoric Satan. We are speaking of this you know, possible story, fictional story. Well, nobody's taking this literally to say that there is an actual being that is capable of this, that defied our creator and thought that he was stronger and decided that he was going to go against his creator. You know, we're thinking, you know, we're trained from birth to think that all of this is, you know, just stories and fiction. And now we've gotten to a point that most of society thinks this way, you know, so the biggest trick that has ever been pulled over our eyes is not the flat earth. It's the realization that, hey, the devil isn't real, you know, and most people think along those lines, that the devil is just this metaphoric, you know, ideology, and it's not. It is very literal, and so are his 199 other fallen angels.
Okay, Lawrence, why don't you describe from your vantage point why this is important? When someone says to you, what difference does it make? Why does it matter if the earth is flat or not? I got my job to go to tomorrow and my kid's diaper needs changing.
Well, once you know it's flat and you know we're not whizzing through space, we're in some kind of enclosure of some description, and you know, it's pure curiosity to try and figure out what type of enclosure it is and what lies beyond it and what the escape routes are. And you know, over time the information will come in, mostly rubbish, but some of it will be good, and I think we're smart enough to eventually work out how we are. But yeah, ultimately everybody wants to see the demise of the bad guy, for us to be, you know, free human beings to, you know, live life as we please without having to go to work and conform to what is in effect slavery for everybody, or apart from a handful of people. We are all slavery, and the obvious of the slavery is becoming more and more apparent, as you showed with that video, Laurie, of the patting down of somebody at the airport. I mean, that is just, you know, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And you know, slowly and surely, every civil liberty that we had is going to go. You know, we need permission to do everything now. You know, everything. You know, if you park too close to a line in a car park, they're going to come and slap a ticket on your car. You can't go anywhere without permission. They want to know everything about you for every last transaction. They want to do away with money. So that these, you know, unless people make a stand, then we allow them to do it. You went to the airport, you allow them to do it because, you know, you've got no choice because you wanted to go somewhere. But ultimately, people need to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right, but everybody would have to do that at the same time together. Everyone would have to, yeah.
They won't. You need individuals to start doing it and setting the example.
Yeah,
And
that's
then when
because we've
everybody
been
does it,
trained to be cattle, right?
when everybody says that's it, no more, or enough people, then you'll get the change. It's
Right.
like in the UK, if you want a cigarette, you have to go and stand outside the pub. You can't have a cigarette inside the pub. So the Britons, being loyal, abiding citizens who dot every I and cross every T regarding the laws and follow them all, we do it over here. But you go over to Spain, they've got the same laws there, and other places that are, under European law. They say, stuff the law. We're not doing that. And they do it. And the police don't bother. They just, the policeman in France will get off his bicycle and go and sit at the local bar and have a Pernod at 8 o'clock in the morning. But
Right.
over here, it's a whole different culture. And
Well,
that's
they
what
believe in they must believe in no victim, no crime in that respect.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mike.
That's it.
Well, how do you answer the question when people ask you what difference does it make
Well,
if
as I
it's
said-
flat or not?
Right. As I said, I'm only in this because the Lord asked me to be in it. Studied the end times. I teach faith. I've been teaching faith, hearing the Holy Spirit for 20 years. And the Lord wanted me to do end time study. And I did, and you come into post-trib, pre-trib, mid-trib, pre-wrath, pre-trism, God forbid. And you come in all these doctrines of theology. And, and so from the scripture, you realize that the timing events were never laid out for anybody. And that's where people get hung up on. I don't know where they get preterism out of all that. But I told the Lord, I said, there's nothing here. If you want me to teach on this and write on this, there's hundreds of books on post-trib, pre-trib, mid-trib, pre-wrath. I mean, what am I supposed to do with this, Because that's not my interest. Eschatology is not something I was at all interested in. I said, so Lord, you're going to have to show me something else. And 3 years later, I'm watching a Christian brother healing people in the name of Jesus out in the streets in a video, and he mentions the earth's flat. So I shut him off because he's nuts. He has to be nuts.
Must be nice.
And he believes in healing. Good, I do too, because I've seen miracles. My own son had terminal T-cell lymphoma, and it was supposed to be. And I won't tell that story now, but I'm just saying. I thought, everybody's got their thing. That's what I'm thinking. Everybody's got something wrong with them, and that was his thing.
Wait a minute. You won't tell that story. Was he healed or not? That at least tell us that much.
It's an amazing story. He's fine today. He's 24.
Awesome.
Well,
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
God's
glad to
word
know
is
that
not-
part. I didn't think
Yeah,
you would bring it up if he didn't make it.
Right, and the story behind that's pretty amazing. But Lawrence, has a question about God, which creator is it? And the main thing, you put the man's word to the test. That's how you know. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's how you know.
You put the word to the test, and once you have, you're a believer because you can't help it. And
because it works.
Well, let me say this, and Lawrence will testify to this. Lawrence contacted me to do this format together because he trusted me and he felt some kind of connection that he and we didn't know each other from Adam, and he was called. Would you call it that or not, Lawrence?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And together, our minds have discovered some very interesting and amazing things. And we've uncovered a lot of information. And we have, we've never met in person, and we probably never will. Who knows? But on a normal day, we would never have met, and we would never be having a weekly or monthly or whatever podcast together and talking privately before doing and discussing things and throwing stuff at each other and so on and so forth. So I think the same thing. Both Lawrence and I have been publicly humiliated, attacked, challenged, the whole 9 yards. I mean, there's been umpteen times when I've said, you know what, I'm over this. I don't need to have another Jaron video made about me, and you with clown Pac-Man faces and Calliope music playing in the background, and them telling their subs to unsub from our channel. I don't need this. You know, that this isn't why I'm doing this. But at the same time, we have somebody like Kevin who contacted me a few days ago and said, thank you for the research and the podcast, you know, hangouts that you've done, because you've inspired me to look into things for myself and so on. And gave me an attaboy, which I probably have had 3 of since this whole thing started. I mean, I felt like I had
celebrate your wins.
I felt like I had a new brownie badge on my my brownie uniform on my chest. And so, but, you know, when people ask me that same thing, what difference does it make? I know they ask that question before they've really thought about how much of our life, the universe, and everything is attached to that globe and to that Big Bang and that evolution and all the false science that goes behind it. And not only that, but all of the ignoring of all of the people out there that they could be. NASA's budget alone was $19 billion this year. That's $50 million a day or some crazy number. Okay.
That's a whole lot of deceit.
And when you think about, you know, they're not going to Mars. So what are they spending all this money on? And you know that, you know, your neighbor down the street, friend, could probably make that CGI rover video they made for free. And
sounds like they're getting ready for
so on. And so the point is, look at all that money that is, you know, I know money's fake and it's not real and all that, but it could be being spent for something else other than fake space and fake wars and all the other fake stuff. Okay. So, when you take away the globe, and usually what I ask people is the reverse. If you had always grown up your whole life being told that the earth was flat and stationary and created by God, if that's all you ever learned, and then somebody like me came up to you and said, oh, no, it's not like that at all. It's a globe, and it's flying through space, and it spins, and it follows the sun through the universe, and on and on. And how did it get here? Oh, well, it got here because something blew up from nothing and created a huge dust storm, and it all collected together with gravity. And inside of it is this molten core that's spinning. And you know, you would literally look at me like I'm absolutely out of my mind. But that is what we believe until we realize, no, it's actually not that. And so what difference does it make? It changes your entire, you know, belief system about everything. And, you know, like we've all so far agreed here, no matter what our backgrounds and our beliefs coming into this, that it says we're created. And that changes everything. That throws Big Bangs and evolution and everything else flat on the floor, and kind of can stomp on it and turn it into mud. And so, so why is everybody fighting each other when that should be the focus? Why?
Because they don't understand the outcome of it. And the outcome is very simple. Once you realize that there is an intelligent designer, and I'm not telling you to go out and follow any religion, I'm just telling you that there's an intelligence behind this. But once you realize that there's an intelligence designer behind here, now you're in a new position that people don't want to face. And that is, every creator has the right to judge his creation. And if he wants to, he can ball it up and throw it in the garbage if that's what he wants. Now that means you personally are subject to judgment. That idea just don't fly with a whole lot of people. So that's why you're also fighting against that also, because the moment they recognize that flat Earth, any ideas they had about Big Bangs and random creation, it's all gone. Now you're subject to judgment. Now you can't say, oh, well, I didn't know.
I see.
Because now you know.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Okay.
But, Romans chapter 1 specifically says it's a creation, witnessing from creation standpoint. You know, that things were understood, the invisible things are understood by the way they were made, but they willfully stayed ignorant and did not like to retain their knowledge of God. And so the creation account is a witnessing standpoint in Scripture. And so anytime you bring up something Scripture, you're going to get the spirits that control these people upset.
Okay.
And
well, that kind of makes sense too. Everything, whether nobody is completely free of control. Even people who really believe that you're not the boss of me, and all that, and they follow the rules because they choose to, but when they don't, and they believe they're in control of their own destiny, then they're lying to themselves, because there is something controlling everything, and free will included. I mean, that's in the picture of the control structure. And so who would you prefer to control you? The one who created you, or somebody else, something else? Okay, so now let's go on to this, and then we'll wrap, because I'm not into talking for hours and hours. I watched one the other day that went on. I didn't watch it. I was listening to it in the background for 5 hours. I was like, oh my God, 5 hours. Didn't anybody have to go to the potty? And so what I'd like to do is ask next, is there a way, now that we've gotten ourselves in this mess of division and arguing amongst ourselves and everything, how it's always takes the big man, the big person, to be the one to extend a hand and an olive branch and say, let's not fight. Let's just either agree to disagree, or let's join together and fight the real enemy. You're not really my enemy. And how do we, or can we, do you think we can, within this uprising community, before it gets to the point of no return, which we're climbing real close to that right now, is it who should offer the olive branch, even though someone is lying or is putting out disinformation, or could possibly even be a shill or an agent? If we're really supposed to love our brothers and sisters, can we win them over? Can we I
think people like DuPay way too much tied in.
Yeah, take their defenses away by not being defensive back. Do we let them put out disinfo and hope that humanity gains enough sense to be able to discern that they're being lied to by even more people now?
Well, honestly, I don't mind. Like, I run my group on Facebook, the Flat Earth News. I've got a ton of people following that AE map. Honestly, I'm wondering if perhaps that's not a useful stepping stone just to get someone into this whole thing, because I know it's not the correct, and maybe it should be the correct system right off the bat, but we don't have all the answers for one. But for two, at least at this point, they realize it's flat. They can get the basics, you know, horizon, perspective, and they can learn all these little simple things. But I think they should also, people like, you know, DeBay and Sargent, I think they should be stressing more that this isn't an exact model. You know, this isn't a for sure thing, because we have debunked this thing. And I know technically you might say, well, these guys shouldn't be putting out that information. We've already debunked it. Well, I agree, but on the other hand, like I said, is that a legitimate stepping stone? Is that something we're going to have to deal with?
Well, I'm going to answer that real quick, because I've already been through this with going down this path. And I'm going to tell you what, I think if I could have gotten a hold of some minds before they got indoctrinated with that and created a normalcy bias with that circle map, I believe it wouldn't have been such a pushback when you said, well, what if it's square, or what if it's a diamond, or what if it's actually no shape at all? It's just the ends of it just, you know, are constantly moving or undefined. Okay, not that it's infinite, but that you can't find the end because it's supernatural. Okay, you start talking like that after they've seen this little mechanical spinning globes circling sun, and this is how it works, and look how simple this is. Simple works for most people. They're like, oh, I can get that, I can understand that, until you start going, well, hold on, except wait, the Tropic of Capricorn is like almost 2 times bigger than the Tropic of Cancer. How's the sun getting there past that, around that, the same amount of time? You know all the arguments, okay? And Lawrence and I spent an immense amount of time talking about Antarctica and how it can't possibly be an ice ring all the way around this big circle, and those flights do exist from Santiago to Cape Town or whatever, okay? And they really do exist. So to me, it was hard enough to get somebody off the globe, and then you got to try to turn around and get them off this circle. That's when I can see where they would say some bogus thing like Darren said, I'll go back to the ball before I'll believe in a square with a morphing sun. Those are his words. Okay. How can you even dare say you would go back to the ball after that one thing is the one thing that, oh no, I can take this and this and that, but I can't go there. Okay. I'll eat my corn and my vegetables and this awful rice, but I won't eat peas under any circumstances. Okay. So, how I can't ignore it. That's my problem. That's my problem. I can't, now that I know that it's wrong, I can't let somebody just keep spreading it around out there. Now, if you're just new and you're kind of ignorant to the whole thing and you don't know any better, and that's one thing. That's kind of like an innocent child saying there's a Santa Claus. Okay. Anybody?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So do we stop caring about that and go along to get along? Because we tried that and that didn't work either.
You just got to have your evidence, and you just got to smash them when they step up, I guess. If we're not going to use it as a stepping stone, then they need to be removed from the community altogether. I mean, if you don't have, first of all, if you're going to have a daily,
and how do we do the same kind of boycott that, you know, it's like, oh, Walmart's buying everything from China now, so don't go to Walmart, go to your local store where they sell, you know, go to the farmer's market, don't go to the blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Do we boycott these people, or do we say they should be boycotted?
No, the best you can do is put your message out there, you know, like a fisherman, and see who bites. And if you get one bite, good enough. If you lose 10, well, that's just the nature of fishing. As long as you pulled one out, because that one person you pulled out might pull out a couple more himself. So yeah, I don't think you can stop them. I think these people have way too much invested in this, in their whole stories and their whole guru thing. And even if I would be surprised if they actually believe the square themselves.
Well, and there's that. If they don't believe it themselves, then they're pretty quick to say, "Oh, I'll go back to the ball before I'll believe this other thing," right? So,
yeah, the guy told me that the other day.
They will. They'd have. Others have said that to you.
The other day on a post, we was arguing, and I was explaining the whole the time thing you were just talking about with the moon and the sun and Capricorn being too big, and he just got so fed up with, naturally the argument went into Pac-Man, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll go back to the ball before I believe that." I mean, he said almost word for word what Jaron had said. So yeah, I've heard that before, and.
Okay, so let me say this, and you know what? Because I just thought of this. What is going to happen when Sunday night news, some station that's popular, some morning show that's popular, has a panel on of flat earthers and scientists together, and the scientists destroy that model with logic, science, and truth, destroy that model. Then they have nothing. Okay. Are they all going to go back to the ball, or are they going to realize, well, it's still flat, it's the model that's wrong? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility also, but yeah, absolutely. But what I worry about is when these big names finally do get a chance to get out into the major public like that and get their message out. The moment that they do put up that Gleason A map, these scientists step up and just absolutely crush it. That's going to tell the entire world, don't take flat Earth serious ever again.
Exactly. That's been Lawrence and I's worst fear about all of that from the beginning. When we saw the flaws, was when they crush this, it will be crushed forever, unless Mike is correct, and Mike called it, and they're going to come out with a flat Earth model with a cute little dome over the top of it, and created by these aliens 18 million years ago, and they've come back. They've been watching us for eons and eons, and they've come back because we have fallen so far from where they, when they created us, and we're messing up this world and this creation. And
well, if that story comes out, I'd beware, and I would not take any kind of mark from them. For if they say that I'm going to protect you, I'm going to feed you, and these are the angels that we've always been talking about, and I'm the Messiah that comes. If any of that is talked about, and they want you to take a mark to feed you or clothe you or bring you into shelter, I'd probably not take that. I'd probably take that as probably false prophets, and I wouldn't accept anything that they wanted to give me.
But if your faith, Kevin, if your faith is not strong enough, A, and B, let's say you have a family with 3 children, and you're not going to sit there and want to watch your children starve to death.
Right.
Okay.
It's a true test
and all
of
you
faith.
have to do is take this simple card. Okay.
Right.
Sign your name on the bottom of this little card.
Right.
And you will get your own account that you can draw down from, and you will be fed and housed and clothed and, medical care and everything else. Just sign your name right there.
I would say you probably don't want to do that.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
That's my
You're
opinion.
going to have some heart connection to
Absolutely. You're going to have
God,
to be. Yes,
to
absolutely. You're going to have to be. You're going to have to.
You're going to have to know. That's okay. I may die in this world, but I'm going to be taken care of in the end, and all will be well, and and so on. But there's a lot of people out there who think they have that kind of faith until it's tested.
Absolutely.
And they see magnificent healing going on over there, and they see, you know, people, you know, happy and playing, and you don't have to work anymore. We're going to bring in the robots. We're going to let the robots do all the work, and you don't have to work.
Be weary of wolves in sheep's clothing.
Can I just
Okay.
screen share, Laurie, and we can have a quick chat about this, because this is we were talking about Pac-Man to the start, and this you might find
Okay.
some of it new. Okay, your entire screen share. Okay, so all right, so we're talking about oops, sorry, wrong one. There we are. So we're talking about Pac-Man. So everything that you look at, because the powers that be have to tell you what they're doing and how it is. And if we don't bother to look at it, then that's our fault. But they're obliged to tell us how it is. So this is day and night world map. Just come up right now. And funnily enough, you've got the sun showing on both sides. So they're telling you there and then that there is the Pac-Man effect, however you want to describe it. That's time and day. Then when you go to sun count, okay, this is what you get on sun count. And if I just move this screen across, this will continue forever and ever. You know, I could stand here all day and it would just keep moving across like an endless sheet of wallpaper. They are telling you that's how it is. When you move it up or down, it will let you go so far, and then it runs out.
Runs out up there.
And as you move down the other way, it runs out.
It runs out down there.
West, this just goes on forever and ever. Now, you can go to any Google map, and there's a zoom in button, you know, plus or minus. And if you zoom out to the maximum, you get this wallpaper effect. That's where they're telling us, in my view, they're telling us that's how this world is.
Well,
Yeah, Lawrence, could you real quick go to the corrugated islands east of Fiji and Johnston Island on that?
East of Fiji. Fiji's in the Indian Ocean.
That's in the South Pacific. It'll be a little to the east of Fiji.
I'll get Fiji.
I'm sorry, I should set you out knowing your geography. I apologize for that.
he's pretty good on geography.
There we go.
And okay, the Fiji now just east of there, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to bring it up on the sun count map, is what they call the corrugated islands. It's on the end of the UTM grid. Above this, west of Hawaii, is Johnston Island. Fishbowl. Have you guys ever talked about that?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Well, let me read you what they were testing. The aurora is associated with high altitude nuclear explosions. I call that idea into question, especially the auroras that appeared almost instantaneously far away from the explosion in the opposite hemisphere. We're not clearly understood. They're checking portals out here, guys. That's what they're looking for.
I believe that from the first time I started reading about that, they were trying to find the escape hatches, and the same thing they're trying to do at the extreme north and south is find the way out.
Now the idea I presented to Free Energy when I was talking to him is maybe the North and South Pole are one and the same and should be in the center. NASA does claim that the weather is teleconnected despite being 13,000 nautical miles apart. And I threw that idea to him. And I've given him quite a few things to look at. Maybe we're looking at the map a little wrong if the North and South Pole are one and the same, because the statement Admiral Byrd said is printed by Santiago. He said that in the next war, planes will be coming over both poles. And that makes sense if the North and South Pole are one and the same. If you keep going, you just cross over the whole magnetic pole. But then again, as Free Energy said, that kind of to explain some other things. And so when we're looking at a map, we don't have the map yet. We know there's a portal describing aether and electromagnetism. I'm looking at scriptures, though, also when Jesus says rocks can cry out, fevers hear, wind can hear, the waves and sea obey and hear. the voice of the word. And so then I start looking at the quantum mechanics, like the slit experiment. Well, are particles aware of us? Jesus said in Mark 11:23, whoever say in this mountain, be thou removed, be thou cast to sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but believe those things which he says, what he's conscious of, what he's saying, shall come to pass. He shall have whatsoever he says. Man being made in the image of God should operate like God here on earth, but of course that's all been lost. We're looking at a whole lot of different ideas and things, and I want everyone to understand that this has only been going on for about 3 years.
Right.
Okay, and it's taken them hundreds of years just to try to get an Earth map together that wraps around a ball. Of course, we know the UTM grid's correct, and so I kind of asked the question. We're sort of, Eric DeBay, obviously he thinks it's the azimuthal equidistance. He's going to hug that thing and hear nothing else. But also, Jaron, Bob, David Weiss, Mark Sargent, all have admitted there are issues with the azimuthal equidistance. And so maybe we're just too concerned too soon. We need to give this thing time. I don't know if you notice on Facebook, there's 19,000 flat earthers in Christ. There are massive flat earth groups on Facebook that I don't see them on the media on YouTube. And so I'm seeing this big difference in YouTube people, Facebook people, and none of us are really connected. And so maybe we're not giving the Lord enough time, because his word will come out as true, and his creation account will remain, will be shown as the correct map eventually. When this is all over, that nothing was said that shall not be made manifest, and anything kept secret that it shall not come abroad. And those that have ears to hear, they'll hear. And so I'm thinking maybe our concern here is a little maybe premature. I think we're just getting out. There's like 5% of the population now believe is indeed flat. If you look at those numbers who believe the evolution versus creation account, 48% people polled, depending on where you do the poll, believe in creation, but that doesn't change the narrative fed to the children in the school. And so we know we're going to need a higher significant number than that to even make a dent into what Congress in different countries are ready to propose. And the United States already has a bill to effectively do away with satellites, LORAN system, ground-based units. Say last year, 2015, back to geocentric model. So there's already plans to take this thing when it's time and flip it back on us. Now, the real thing I'm concerned about is not so much the map. I'm concerned about this holographic simulation theory that can be used in the end to promote the end-time bad guy, some people affectionately know as the Antichrist, or mentioned as son of perdition, the Thessalonians. That's my concern at this point. I fully think that we've not given this thing enough time. I have the media power of CBS, NBC, and CNN to get the information out. And of course, if we see anything on the news, they're going to use the azimuthal equidistance. They're going to trash it. That's already a given. We understand that. But I don't fully believe that's going to shake believers' faith. I just think promoting the fact that it's flat, we've been lied to, and the fact nothing NASA does is true. And even NASA's budget, I suspect, I don't know if NASA actually got that money or not. I don't know if all these budgets are a horse and pony show, or if NASA's actually being handed that money. We don't really know.
Well, what will they use as an excuse, Mike? Oops, feedback. What will they use as an excuse for having faked all this stuff all this time? I mean, well, they literally have been faking pictures of the Earth from space and faking Mars rovers. And how do you I mean, they're going to have to come up with a damn good excuse for why they faked all that.
Well, if you look at man, the world governance band together. I believe they lied about nuclear weapons, of course, and to keep order. To keep order. We see what one country, Germany, almost did. They could have grabbed the whole world just with the technology they had. Think Russia, China, the U.S., and once Japan got on board, I think they all realize that we can't allow a small country to have that much power again, and it's possible. And so what we do is we create a false narrative, nuclear weapons, we create a false narrative of all this space technology. And so I'm not 100% convinced that it's all about hiding God. That's a big part, of course, because that's Satan's game. And, you know, he's got his hands in the evolution. But I think it's just the sort of the narrative that's just played out. And Jesus said, let the devil sow his tares, don't pluck him up. Don't try to, okay, because you can hurt the wheat. And so it takes years to sow all these tares. And, you know, we have LGBT community now, we have homosexuality. We got laws passing for bestiality now, and now we got laws passed in California they're trying to legalize pedophilia, and pretty soon we're going to have laws passed that, you know, people can rip your stop sign off from your block because they fell in love with it. You know, it's giving googly eyes at them as they're going to work every day. Now they have this affection that is considered legitimate, and so now they have a right to steal your bus sign and stop sign, take them home, marry them. I mean, that's where we're headed. And so I just think we're a little too soon to go in panic mode. You know, Jaron says the things he says, and Jaron probably says a lot of things he shouldn't say that doesn't help his channel, but he's human. You know, Bob, you know, I've talked to him. He's not multiple equidistance, has issues. Jaron did say he believes the sun might dimensional. That's a start. And I don't think until we present the model and unfortunately present a model that works physically to a lot of these people, we're not going to gain a lot of traction. Right now I'm doing studies of sun, the sun shadows. My last video, the sun's too close to leave the angular shadows that it leaves. I prove at what distance light has to be before it starts leaving angular shadows. Our sun's not in our spatial space. We get the sun stuck in clouds, and I'm looking at that. The sun is actually there because the back of the clouds is backlit, but the sun's not there. The sun's just passing through because he runs a circuit above Earth. I just believe maybe we need to just be nice, present things, and be non-aggressive in attacking the azimuthal equidistance, just as facts, just like everybody else does, in a love and edifying way, and be approachable and make people feel like they're approachable. I was listening to Ronnie Harris, Ronnie, been skeptic. Go on, sir.
Mike, there's a question for you. Do you think God, when he created the earth, the realm, I'm not sure whether you see it as a realm, but when God created this place where we reside, did he leave any exit points for humans to actually step outside of Earth to some other realms? In your opinion?
Oh, kind of like CERN, like opening the gates to hell, so to speak. Once again, I think we're trying to define what realm of the spirit is and put it into some scientific terms we understand, like Stargate or you know, the Enterprise entering a wormhole. It's the realm of the spirit. It runs through us, it runs over us, it surrounds us. And, you know, when we try to add terms to it, well, it's the aether, or it's this field, or it's fourth dimensional, we're adding terms invented by men. Necessarily how it really is, in order to try to understand something that God needs to reveal to us. So I hope that made sense.
Well, think about, we've run this scenario multiple times, and in my opinion, the sun is not physical in here with us at all. And I don't even think the sun is physical at all anywhere, okay? And I think that the pinpoint of light that we see, that we call the sun, is literally, I don't think a whole lot different than the concept of a magnifying glass with a, you know, light shining on it, making kind of almost a pinpoint beam from the heavens. And if you change the angle of the ceiling and it's see-through, you're going to get a sun that looks like it's moving in a straight line, and it very well could be going like this. But you add the two things together and you have no way to be able to discern how far away it is, what its source is, it's obvious that there's light left behind. I mean, I live in Florida, very close to the Gulf of Mexico, and I watch beautiful sunsets every night. And I just go out on my front porch. I don't live right on the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not that wealthy and fortunate, but I, I can look to the west, to the sky, and see fabulous sunsets. And I'm not stupid. I see that orange glow underneath the clouds. How can that be if the sun is just going away? It has to be below. Okay. So that tells me that it might be going like this. And if it's on the apex, on the downswing for the next person, and so on and so forth. Okay. You can only associate so much of that from, okay, that sun reflecting off the water, bouncing back up onto the clouds, blah, blah. So to try to define that and to try to create an experiment to show that, Lawrence almost talked me into making a plexiglass pyramid thing with, here's the land on a diamond, and then you got to take the sun and you got to shine it down through. Well, how am I going to see what that looks like from inside here? Oh, and then John Malicki said, well, don't put a bottom on it, flip it upside down and show the light from underneath, and then you'll be able to see. And so I'm like, I don't think you could take that macro and show it on a micro level that you could see and compare. Just like these people saying, oh, watch me make a sundog. Here's my glass bowl. Here's my flashlight. Look, this means we have a dome over the top of us. No, it just kind of looks similar. That doesn't prove a dome at all, okay? And look at rainbows. Rainbows are arcs. That must mean we have a dome over the top of us. No, because rainbows are actually circles. You're just not seeing all of it. All rainbows are full circles. And the only way that you can have a rainbow, see a rainbow, is the sun has to be behind you. You got to be between the sun and the rainbow. And well, I never thought about that. So how are you gonna emulate God's work? Okay, God's creation with bowls and flashlights and candles, whatever. Okay, so for us to be able to prove any of that stuff, pretty much impossible individually. So
right.
So the whole idea here is then what each of you are saying is kind of not the same thing. See, I'm of the camp where somebody's got to be the one to step forward and take the bullets. When you're having an information war, and that's what we're having, I don't care what anybody says, we're having an information war. Somebody's got to stand forward and say, okay, I'll be the one to you don't have to mow down the other side. You just have to be the one to come forward and say, no, that's wrong. And here's why. And if enough people start to do that, which is what I think we're starting to see now, and it's only because they kept on, Thomas kept on in spite of being beaten the hell out of on his group. I kept on, Lawrence kept on saying, no, it's not that circle thing. And if we hadn't done that, you wouldn't have heard Jaron just the other day say, I'll go back to the ball before I go square with a morphing sun. That means the ripple effect has already begun, and we cannot back off. That's my opinion. We cannot back off. Yeah, it may take another 2 years. It's already been 2 years for me. I'm getting a little impatient at the same time. I got all the time in the world, because the goal is for everybody to wake up to the lie. So I got to stay on the path.
But we also have infinite plane stuff that work with too. So, I mean, It's on Jaren's mind. It's on a lot of people. And I think we just keep pushing the way, because 2 years is not a long time to make a bunch of globe earthers flip over and go, here you go. It was all a lie. Sandy Hook's lie. And probably you're not even you would probably lie too. It's all a lie. And have them try to process this information. It's a lot. It really is.
My answer to that, Mike, is that when people, because it was Matt Powell talking about the hiding land, there's more land. Okay, well, let's think about what's happened in history. When more land was found, it wasn't given to the people. The crown colonies, that they claimed ownership for it. This belongs to Portugal. This belongs to France. This belongs to England. This doesn't belong to us as individuals. So even if they'd found more land, they wouldn't have any reason to hide it, because they'd take ownership of it anyway. So I don't think they're on hiding land.
Just like they have everything else. Right.
Yeah, they just take it.
I agree with you, Lawrence. Now, maybe there's some land that, and I've said this before, just like with Atlas Shrugged. Was it Atlas Shrugged where the wealthy people took off and went and found the little place down in the valley in the Colorado mountains or somewhere, and isolated it for themselves and didn't want any of the proletariat in there. So there's a possibility that someplace like Greenland, that really isn't Greenland. I mean, you got people arguing that Greenland is actually Australia. I mean, this is how kooky it's gotten. Okay. People freaking live in Australia and have for a very long time. They have defined their maps. They have defined their area. They know how wide it is, how, which part's desert. They know. Okay. So Australia is not Greenland.
No,
but this is the other question. Okay. When you find people putting out disinformation like that, okay, what happened when Lawrence called out Gypsy Girl for saying that very thing? Greenland doesn't actually exist, and Australia is Greenland, and he called her out on a video, and poof, she just got off Facebook. Screw all you people, you're all so mean to me, and I'm just trying to do research here. And we're like,
Brittany alone.
yeah. Well, and so but the reality is, when you do see this, okay, I'll put it this way, when someone insults me, okay, I'm the one who has decided I've been insulted. So it's up to me to say, I'm insulted. Did you mean to insult me, or is that me? And then if they go, oh no, I meant to insult you, okay, then we know where we're at here. Okay. But if they say, oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to insult you at all. Okay. Now you have to decide, you tell me the truth, or did you just pull that out? Oh no, because you got caught. Okay. And because I push back. So when I see people putting out disinformation, that's why today, with the girl I was just talking about that put the azimuthal map on her thing and trying to wake people up with it, I said, that's a false model, and that has been debunked. And I did it as nicely as I could. Little smiley face, don't get mad. And she's and she said,
smiley face, kissy face.
yeah, exactly. And meaning I didn't mean to insult you. And she didn't know. She answered, no, I haven't heard that. Okay. So that's okay. But then you have somebody like Jaron or David Weiss. I mean, we talked several times on this show about David Weiss saying, oh, they got faster airplanes in the Southern Hemisphere going from Santiago to Sao Paulo or Chile or whatever those southern flights are, and they're going faster. And it's like, really, you really think people are going to believe that? There's 20 times more flights going on in the northern hemisphere. If somebody was going to get to be going faster, don't you think they'd be using those faster planes up here? I mean, come on. And so instead of going, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong and maybe that was a stretch. No, he kept pushing that for a way long time until somebody like Dave Marsh comes along. Shout out to David Marsh. Just so you know, every once in a while, I do say an attaboy to people. He comes along and does an experiment that shows the speed of the sun and the moon. No, it was the moon speed. Both.
Moon speed.
Going, you know, at the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of the Equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn, and people said that the moon has to be speeding up to be doing the same distance in the Tropic of Capricorn as it is in the Tropic of Cancer. Well, guess where it goes the fastest? Equator. Distance. Figure that out, okay? But he proved it.
And Capricorn, yeah.
Okay, so you know, until we collectively get together and start working together with these kinds of experiments, you know, you take the moon from where you live in there, and I'll go, and you go over there, and we'll all combine them, and we'll see. Until we start doing that, this infighting thing is that's what's preventing that. But you know, to hold on to something that people have proven, and you won't even look at the information because Pac-Man, really? That's what, you know, a bee in your bonnet is. Pac-Man. Ignore that part and look at all. What is it Thomas always says? Eat the meat and spit out the bones. Okay.
Question to
If
Mike.
you don't like Pac-Man.
The thing about it is, I understand their problem with the whole Pac-Man thing. I got my phone upside down. I'm sorry. Hold on. But here's the thing.
That's okay, and your sound's cutting out in and out too.
All right. Here's the thing. When you do the math, the square lines up. It's as simple as that. When you peel a map off a ball and lay it flat, it turns out to be what we call that rectangle or diamond, however you want to look at it. The math is correct. It works. Every city lines up. The only thing that we have problems with is explaining the Pac-Man. I have a slight theory on that. I believe outside of this place is ether, which is completely counterspatial. If you go according to your diamond, and you divide the entire Earth down the prime meridian from the North Pole to the South Pole, we actually would have two western sides and two eastern sides. I believe what's happening possibly is steroids here. I believe these are actually
This is killing me. Your sound is just cutting out so badly, and I want people to hear this. Can you hold that mic? Put that. It's rubbing again. It's shorting out something. Okay, you left off with the ether and Pac-Man and the spatial. Darn it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Yeah, here's what I think is a possibility. If you have the map on a diamond, that gives you two western edges and it gives you two eastern edges. But consider that even though there's an angle at the equator, let's just pretend that that's all one line. It's just bent. Now, here's the thing. If outside of this place is ether, ether is utterly counterspatial. That means the only place for that edge to connect to would be the other edge, which would be, you know, the westerns would have no choice but to connect to the eastern because there's no space there. Ether doesn't take up space. There is no.
Okay. It's gone. No sound. You're gone. Can't hear you.
Okay, the question I have about that is who's tested this ether? Who's proved it exists? What is it?
It's like the 4D concept, Mike. You know, it's like.
I mean, yeah, but where's the test on it?
Well,
That's my
I
question.
understand. 4D is a theory. 5D, 6D, because
Right,
we can't see it from where we are. We're just little meat suits trapped down here in, you know, flatland. and we have no way of knowing what's outside of there.
Well, ether is dielectric by nature. Ether is a fluid, ether is a fluid-like substance. It can be explained many different ways. I mean, I can give you examples of it, and it all has to do with magnets. Magnets are the easiest thing to get.
I understand the theory. I just want to get a hold of it.
The issue is,
measure it.
right. The issue is you have to be able to put in your mind the concept, just like Lawrence showed from the timeanddate.com. Literally, when it's coming off of over here, it's coming onto over here. It's just instantaneous.
What Lawrence showed is easy to explain, scripturally sound, because that's what Psalms 19 says the sun does. I have, and I'm not saying it's not ether. I'm not saying it's not the fourth dimension. I kind of like what you said, Lori. Kind of pictured like we're in a fish tank. I don't believe oxygen's generated on the earth either. I just don't see plants to fill 38,000 feet and oxygen be exactly the same level change of oxygen levels altitude. I believe God's supplying everything. You know, so we're in a fish tank. We have our air hose stuck in. Our food gets dropped on the top. We can see the other dimension, spatial space, or the aether, whatever you call it. We can see outside. Outside affects us. Like we can see the sun, but the sun's not in our space. But when we try to, you know, the only issue I have is if we're going to define it in terms, if it's this or this or this, people are going to want some aether under that microscope, and they're going to want some evidence of it. Have with it, you know, when Lawrence showed how it worked. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
I get you, but you believed, well, maybe not you, but those who do believed in evolution, and you cannot find this chain. You can't put this chain under a microscope. People believe in big, You're saying they can? Right.
No, you can't.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. And so the Big Bang, you know, who reported that it's all of a sudden something blew up? Who was there to report that? Okay. So it's a theory. Well, okay. Well, I mean, and there you go. You can take Big Bang and you can attribute it to God. If that's the way he created it, he made a Big Bang. And it, you know, if he's supernatural, he certainly has the capacity to do that. I spoke out the Big Bang, but that's not the way that it's reported. And so part of this supernatural thing is to be able to wrap your mind around a concept and not necessarily put it under a microscope. You may not ever be able to touch, see, feel, hear, smell ether. But once you've discarded every other thing that it could be, then Occam's razor usually comes in there somewhere and says, well, then it must be this. And then you start your discovery at that point. I mean, look at what scientists have done. Look what mathematicians have done. They've been created entire theories based on numbers that equations.
And particles.
And explained life, the universe, and everything with equations.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
They have explained a lot of things through equations. The thing is nobody has ever seen a quark. Nobody has ever seen a proton or an electron. You know, what they are looking at with an electron microscope is the field around the center point of spatial mass. And all mass has this center spatial part. And what they are looking at is this field around it. Now, they define that field as these things floating around, but it's really not, you know, and just that knowledge alone proves that, you know, now I can go and break this down. The best thing you can do is read the book, Uncovering the Missing Secrets of Magnetism. That will lay it all out, and it links the macro to the micro. It explains all observable phenomenon. Nothing else can be otherwise. It is exactly on point. No quantum mechanics and no general relativity. Science fairy tale will ever explain it better. It is what it is, and ether is ether is ether. It is all energy, all sight, smell, sound, taste, feeling, all mass, all space. It's all the result of the same thing.
Incommensurability, that's the secret. That's how it's going.
All right, guys, I guess we're all going to have to watch these videos so that we can have an actual discussion about this sometime, because I got nothing on this because I don't know what you guys are talking about. But
Well, yeah, same here.
I feel your passion about what you believe, you think you know, so that's enough for me to go and look into it. Okay. And
5
what?
4.
Lawrence?
Sorry, just a second. You carry on.
Oh, Lawrence just did one of those things where you just go, mayonnaise, birds, spaghetti. No idea.
I love spaghetti.
Okay. So he does that every once in a while. Okay.
If
So
we have the sciences for Aether, cool. Be checking into that.
yeah, I want to see that too. And most of the time though, what happens is a person that is explaining it knows their topic so well that they're already so far above your head when they try to explain it to you, because they
automatically,
it automatically is like, no, and I didn't get none of that, and so you just blew my interest right out the door. Now somebody like Eric Dollard,
I love him.
I can sit and listen to him because he talks real talk.
Yeah, real talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's the one who first got me to thinking that the sun isn't the big flaming ball.
Right.
I mean, even when I was became a flat earther, I still thought it was a flaming ball. It was just smaller and closer. Until I realized it's not a flaming ball at all. It's got nothing to do with flaming balls. There's no flaming. There's no ball. And so the same thing happens to you when you start to understand stars. Those aren't little twinkle twinkle little stars that are actually, if you zoom in real close, look like planets. You zoom in real good and you see like freaky energy boxes moving around and turning colors and so on. And people will say, I actually have a video on this channel about stars. And beware the music when it first comes on. I totally did a bad job putting the music to it, but the thing is the first time I saw that, I thought, now I have stood out in my yard and I've seen stars that I think are doing just that turning, dancing, electrical energy thing with red and blue and green and stuff. And I've actually seen that on a really microscopic scale. And so that's what I was thinking they were. And then I see a video of that, and then you show that to a glober who thinks those are, stars trillions of miles away, and that light it left there 5 billion years ago, and it's just making it to your eye. Did you guys hear all that when you were kids? And do they still say that? Actually, they still put that out there.
Let me just go through the panel, Laurie, because I have a little interesting exercise here. So I want you to pretend that I'm a glober and I've come on this show to have a chat to you. And I'll say to you, all these flat earth models that you're coming up with, I've got a big problem with them. Now, I can travel anywhere on earth between any 2 points and it will never be more than 12,500 miles. So, Laurie, give me a map model that's not a globe. Any model.
The Collignon.
The Collignon.
The diamond.
What's the maximum distance between any two places on that map?
12,400 miles.
No, between any two places, east to west, is the longest dimension.
25,000 miles.
Exactly. It's 25,000 miles. So that flat don't work because on our map, which is reality on the globe, it's the globe's reality, nothing's more than 12,500 miles apart. So, Mike, give me a model. Give me a flat Earth model.
Transverse Mercator projection.
And what's the maximum distance between any 2 points on that?
Well, supposedly, about 13,000 nautical miles, or that'd be half distance of the equator.
No. A transverse Mercator, the maximum distance between any 2 points is corner to corner, which is 28,000 miles.
Okay.
But in my reality on the globe, nothing's more than 12,500 miles away. You've got a big problem with your map.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it keeps going.
Sorry, I don't know you. I forgot your other guys' names because I'm Rohlin. Give me a model. Give me a flat Earth model.
I really don't have a flat Earth
Okay,
model
then
to give you. I'm listening to you guys because you guys know all about it.
Okay, give him a model, and you're going to say azimuthal equidistant.
All right, AE map. What's the maximum distance between any 2 points on the AE map? What side to the other? How far is that?
I think it's something like 60-something thousand miles across, isn't it, Lawrence?
No, from one side to any side to the any side, the opposite side. How far is it?
It's not 60-something.
No, 25,000 miles nearest, damn it. It's 25,000 miles.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, but on your model, I'm a glober. I live on the Earth. It's 12,500 max. So your model don't work. So I've destroyed every model. You can give me any model, any flat Earth model you like. It does not work because the maximum distance between any 2 places is 12,500 miles. On all your models, it's going to be at least 25,000 miles between the maximum distance between any 2 points. So what is your answer to that? How are you going to get around that?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man.
There is no other answer. It has to be Pac-Man.
There's no other answer. It's Pac-Man.
Yeah. But you won't get the likes of Jerry and Eric Dubé to even entertain the question. They won't entertain that question because with their pre-arranged narrative that they've been paid to put out there and stick with, whatever evidence comes to contradict it, they're going to stick with it, even though it looks stupid.
Well, I have to agree with that.
Well,
that's just me.
Jared did say
I'm on the show. I'm on the show Wall of Shame. I can say that.
Jared did say he'd have me on, so I will bring that up. I know he won't want to talk about scriptures, but
maximum distance between.
Well, you ask him. We can't get the opportunity. We're all blocked, so we can't get the opportunity to pose that question. So if you get the opportunity, the greatest distance between any 2 points on Earth is 12,500 miles.
For sure.
On the globe.
Right. On the ball.
And in reality, because we're not on a globe, the reality is the flat surface is the maximum distance is 12,500 miles. And the only way that will work is kind of with Pac-Man or some kind of fourth dimensional thing, as you know, saying you go into the ether, which is no space, and come back on the other side.
Otherwise, it has to be a ball.
So. Otherwise, it has to be a ball. So you've got to. Eric might have to go back to the ball.
He might,
Before he'll entertain the question.
They won't answer. Mike Jaron will tell you it's 12,500 miles across the AE map. That's what he'll tell you. He'll just come up with some bullshit to say that because that's what he's good at. You know what they say? You know what they say about Globebusters now, don't you? They say that Globebusters are the NASA of flat Earth. They take your money and they fill you full of bullshit.
Oh boy!
Week after week, year after year.
I can't.
And that's what they do.
The
more guy who
they're
hailing as a big celebrity for the UK conference, his nickname is now the Snorgale because that guy sends you to sleep because he prattles on
about robots
without coming to the point.
Lawrence.
Right.
That's a good rant. That's enough ranting. And the idea,
because I happen to like these people, and I don't want to be associated with that. All right.
Okay. Well,
you guys have a good night.
Okay. So see, you just dropped Mike right out of the game. So thank you for joining us, Mike. If you get a chance to listen to this, and we appreciated your input, and thank you very much. So. Lawrence, now that you've chased Mike off with division and accusations.
It's okay. It's hard sometimes.
and he's trying to, you know, be involved with all the people, and goes on all the different shows. And I gave him what I think was a good opportunity tonight to express what he wrote a book about and what he does talk about very often, and that is the biblical perspective of proving that the AE doesn't work. And if he wants to challenge other people to stop using it, then that's up to him, but he's apparently not interested in doing that in this format. So I wanted to ask him on because Treasure Map Tim has asked me several times, and those of you who are flat earthers and get on Treasure Map Tim's mailing list, I wanted to give Mike an opportunity to talk with us about that. So that's that. So now that we had our rant, Lawrence, how do you think that is going to play in trying to get more people to listen? Because you know that you've been shunned, just like I have, by all of these people. They've called us names. They've, you know, told people to unsub from our channel. They've made videos about us. And there are plenty of people who say, can't we all get along? Can't we be one happy family? Obviously, we can't all. We can't all.
No, it's difficult sometimes. I mean, like with anything, I mean, each one of us has built up our own belief system, and it just has, you know, it seems like the three of us, you know, or the four of us have a wonderful ability to articulate and be able to entertain ideas without accepting them. And that's really the true mark of intelligence, is being able to listen to somebody wholehearedly, hear what they say, and then make your own decision from there. You know, just because you're listening to somebody doesn't mean that doesn't mean you have to accept the information. But
let me use a comparison, okay? Because things like this, what just happened, I take to heart, because he was obviously upset and didn't want to be anymore. But I look at it from another perspective, and I'm gonna give you a couple of scenarios whereby you would have to decide to speak up. Okay, you're at the grocery store, and there's a little kid in the shopping cart around the corner in the next aisle. And he's having a tantrum because his mother won't buy him Cheerios or whatever, some bad cereal with sugar all over it, okay? And he's having a hissy fit. And the next thing you know, you hear a smack and crying. And you think, did she just smack that kid? And then you can't help yourself. You're going to go peer around the corner. And that mom's smacking that kid again and again and again, and just having a, you know, beating this kid down. And it's escalating, and he's crying, and he's acting out even worse. Do you decide this is none of my business and walk away and let it go? Or do you decide to say something in defense of this child who's defenseless? Now, you can add in all kinds of things. The kid does it every week, you know, sooner or later he'll shut up. She's not really hurting him that bad. Some kids just need a good pop in the face. That's a scenario I am comparing to listening to people who are putting out disinformation and gaining ground, taking people's money. They're volunteering it. They go on these super chats and they pay money to get their their question or their comment put up on the screen, or however that works. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do I knowingly know that they're putting out disinformation? Do I say something, or do I play the other character and just go mind my own business and go walk around the corner? Okay. Now, you may say that those are extreme comparisons, but I think that it's some people's responsibility to come forward and say this is wrong.
Well, let me say this, Lori. I think that it really depends on the situation of the individual at the time and who exactly you're talking about. But essentially, I mean, that's where we are. I mean, we have to step up and say something when we see something wrong, because the reason why it has gotten to this point and why there's so much deception is because nobody has stepped up in the face of power and money and authority and said enough is enough. Nobody's done that. And so yeah, I would say go up to that.
We won't stand up to each other. Are we ever going to stand up to the big, powerful, ruler bad guys, controller bad guys?
We absolutely should stand up for each other and to each other, but constructively. That's the only way we're going to get anywhere further, is if I fill in your weaknesses and you fill in my weaknesses, and together we are a coherent circuit. It's the difference between a ball of spaghetti out and a ball of spaghetti in. Very similar to light.
Exactly.
We are stronger in numbers. We are stronger together.
I chose a long time ago. So I've been associated with Lawrence now for nearly, he just did, and he's totally entitled to be able to do that. I am not responsible for what comes out of Lawrence's mouth, nor does he for what comes out of mine. And if somebody has a problem with something Lawrence says, well, then you have a problem with Lawrence. If you associate that problem with me, then there's nothing I can do to stop you. That's your choice.
Well, no, if you have a problem with something that Lawrence said, really, you don't have a problem with Lawrence. You have a problem inside yourself. Lawrence is entitled to say whatever he wants to say, and he's entitled to believe whatever he wants to say. And if somebody takes offense to that, then really it's not Lawrence's problem. It's really that person's inner self that can't handle some kind of information because of whatever brain chemistry is being released at that time.
Well, there's a lot of baggage in the flat earth community already. I mean, it's only been a few years since it's really kicked up. And, if I look back, if I sat down and wrote down a timeline and wrote down all the stories of all the bizarre people and behaviors and accusations and shill calling and all the other things that I have been through in just shy of 3 years since I've been involved. And if I equated that with anything else in my life, okay, if my family did that to me, I would just completely stay away from my family. If my church did that to me, my job did that to me, I would quit my job. I would quit my church. I would go, I don't belong here. This is not working. Okay. But I'm still in the flat earth, and I'm still talking, and I'm still trying. And I obviously don't resonate with everyone. There's lots of people who say, oh my God, she just goes on and on, or, oh my God, she's, what was the last guy? Awake Souls guy made a whole video about my hands and called me a tranny. Okay. I mean, there's like the whole new transvestigation thing going on, and now everybody's a tranny. And what are you going to do about it? You can say I'm not, and then hope that that's the end of it, but it won't be, because they won't let it go. Out of the whole time we've been talking tonight, I clicked on the chat page that I have open, and what did I see right then and there? Of that whole chat, Awake Souls, something about transgender, and the whole night there's only one thing that I've done on chat, and that's ban Awake Souls the minute I saw it on the chat, and that's that. That's all he can do. All right. And so when did any of this get about any of that stuff? And so Lawrence doesn't care if he hurts somebody's feelings, if he feels he's actually saying the truth. And he's spent, how many hours you think you've logged right now, Lawrence, watching YouTube videos while you're working at home, putting your potions together? Thousands of hours? Tens of thousands? I don't even know how many hours is in a year.
5,000 hours looking through since I started.
Okay. And
that's just looking through what's out there, you know.
Okay. And you know, so he's heard it all. He's heard everybody. And it's a summation game, isn't it? I mean, if it walks like a chicken and it squawks like a chicken, it tastes like a chicken. It's probably going to be a chicken.
It's probably going to be a chicken.
Probably not going to be frog legs.
They still just want to think that it's just the Southern Flights that's the problem with the model, but it's not. It's everything else, and there is a whole realm of bloody problems with that none of them work. And just as much as the one with, you know, that there's no maximum distance between any two places. They cannot answer the question, yet they continue to push that false model. You've got a conference coming up in South Carolina or North Carolina or somewhere in Carolina.
North Carolina.
And everybody on that stage is pushing that same false model. This is orchestrated deception. And then you've got the UK one, and I think it may be more accident by design. But the two headline speakers flying over to England, Mark Sargent and the Snorgile, they're going to be coming over, and we all know what model they've got. So maybe that's why
they've got the Robotham model.
It is.
Yeah.
It is all.
The people that are putting the people that are putting on that UK exposition or whatever we're calling it. What are they? They're not circle flat earthers, they're square flat earthers or something else. Most of them are. The Sun and Moon group all is, right?
The organizer, but the fact that they've actually invited people who are known agents, let's be honest about it, they're known agents, and they've invited them to come and talk at the UK conference, and they're only doing it to try and put bums on seats. That's what it boils down to.
Lawrence,
the maximum attendance.
Bums on seats. Okay.
Lawrence, you are absolutely right. It is organized.
That's why they've done that, because they've had to lay out a load of money to book the hotel, and they need to fill the rooms, and they need to fill the seats so they can cover their costs and hopefully make a profit. So they've compromised the flat earth truth to try and make the event financially viable.
Right.
And there is the problem, because Darren Nesbitt's speaking there as well. So he's going to be laying into them during the conference. So it'll be worth seeing what Darren says when he turns up there. Well,
and you know what? Is Darren going to be speaking at the conference in Raleigh?
In UK? No, but in the UK.
Right. Okay. So they would easily say, why don't you guys have your own conference and you say whatever you want to say? You know, you put out whatever model you want to put out. And at the end of the day, it's still going to come down to a person by person investigation, research, and understanding of where we live. It's at the end of the day, that's where it's going to come down to. And I do believe they're going to reject the lie sooner or later. I really do.
They're going to have the newspapers, Laura. They'll invite media people to the conference. They'll give them free tickets. They can put them up overnight. And if you look at the one in the USA, they've already put on the back on the internet on the website what the model is as a guide to the press as to what it's all about. So when this appears in the national newspapers in the States, if it gets covered, you know what model they're going to be showing. It's already predetermined. And it'll be the same in the UK.
Well, I mean, okay, for one thing, let's look at this in a realistic way, all right? if you have a blog or a newspaper, online newspaper web page, all right, and you're going to write a blog article about flat earthers, anything, and you got to put some picture on there because you have to. It's for interest, because nobody just reads letters anymore. And so you either have to put a little picture on there, or you have to put a little video clip or something. All right. Now, picture this. Flat Earth community meeting up at this place, and we were invited to come and and do a news story about them, and here's what they believe. Okay. Show 'em circle map. That's why it was designed. It was designed as an iconic, quick imagery to utilize for a flat plane, right? And maybe it's got a snow globe over the top of it, and maybe it's got a little sun and the moon underneath of there and some ice around the outside. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they show the UN flag. I don't know. They're one and the same to me. And how else are you going to do that? Okay, here's a diamond, or here's a square, and here's Pac-Man, and here's some clouds. And how are you gonna show people how that works in a quick imagery? You're not.
You can't.
That's why this was designed. You can't.
Hey, have you guys seen this?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And that's a Buddhist. It comes from a Buddhist map. And it
Have you seen the black and white one that's discovered in China 1,000 years ago or something?
Yeah.
Right. Sure. Looks pretty good to me for 1,000 years old, found hiding, lurking somewhere in some Buddhist temple. And that's what Lawrence and I have looked at, all these kinds of things. These I don't even know what I did with the book of. I've done it 100 times already. The book of the modern college versus modern college. We know there's no such place as modern college in the UK, but in Blackheath. But there's a book out. It's called The Modern College, Blackheath, and it's all about the college. And it's not even a college anyway. It's like a home for indigent people. And it's not called modern, it's called Morden. The title of the book, talk about mega typos. Because what does it say on the Gleason map? Modern college. So, we boo-booed. We put modern instead of Morden. So we better make some backup evidence for our boo-boo. So let's reprint this old several 100-year-old book or something, and let's put modern on the front instead of Morden. And inside the book, Morden, and more Morden, and Morden. There's no modern inside anywhere, okay? And yet, see, it says on the Gleason map, modern, so it must be modern. And this is how this kind of disinformation takes hold, just like the ice wall. Did you hear about an ice wall when you very first joined Flat Earth? You heard about Antarctica, because that was like a big thing. You can't go to Antarctica. You will be blown out of the water. You will be killed. You cannot go there. Okay. And then you come along and show some video. Oh, look. Look at all these people. Who are these people? Oh, well, they're not even in Antarctica. They're probably in the Arctic. Really? Am I cutting out again?
Occasionally, yeah.
All right. So we probably are like expired our bandwidth or something for the evening. So rather than go on we've already been on for 3 hours. Oops. See how that works?
Time flies when you're having fun.
I'm gonna shut this puppy down and say thanks for joining me and Lawrence, both Thomas and Kevin.
No, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
And
Thank you very much.
Mike, who had to leave. He's got a little warm in here.
Thank Mike
And-
too.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, too, for your information.
For sure.
And we'll be back again soon, as always. And look for this on the podcast on MP3 for all kinds of places like iTunes and whatever. We've exceeded our 1.5 million listens so far on our podcast version. And so shout out to all you people listening. Hope you made it this far. And so good night. Anybody got a parting shot they want to take? Since
Yeah,
we're
one last thing,
shooting
Mike.
with real bullets tonight.
There's been a change on the quinoa. The Love one, which was totally untarnished after 1 year, a few days after that I showed you last time, it wasn't mold as much, not smelly mold. It's turning into a type of cheese now. And it smells.
Oh, and you know what? I didn't want you to open that. I wanted you to leave that sealed so that you wouldn't introduce any bacteria in there. So that's what happened. You opened that jar up and bacteria got introduced. But
It's
it
not
lasted a
smelly,
whole
though.
year with just the whole love thing. So, oh well, thanks for that. Well, we didn't expect it to last forever. Go ahead.
I'd like to say one thing,
Okay.
I have a quote that I love to say, and I say it all the time. We are all connected and we are all affected. And one thing we can all agree on is that we are on a flat plane. And that's a good thing, that at least we agree on that,
Yeah, that's a good saying. Thank
All right.
you. All right.
Y'all have a good night.
All right,
Yeah.
you too. Thomas, anything?
If I could say anything to any flat earther, especially someone new, coming in new, the first thing you need to do is you need to locate all the international airports, check the miles, check the airport flight times. You need to verify the continental layout. You need to verify this because this is going to tell you where equator's at, Cancer's at, Capricorn's at. It's going to tell you everything. Verify the equator first, verify the continental layout.
Okay, good
And
advice.
it's been great being on your show.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate both you guys being on, and Lawrence, even you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.